His first hit of the year. He drives one. Deep left field. Back goes Upton. Back near the wall. It's out of here. Bartolo has done it. The impossible has happened. This is one of the great moments in the history of baseball. Bartolo Colon has gone deep.
Of baseball.
At Petco Park in San Diego, Pix 11 Sports presents New York Mets baseball. Today, the Mets play the San Diego Padres. New York Mets baseball is brought to you by Hyundai. The latest lineup of cars and SUVs you'll find at your local Hyundai dealer aren't just new, they're better. By M&T Bank, what's important to you is important at M&T Bank. Learn more at mtb.com/meet us. By Nissan, get a safe ride with sound savings during Nissan's Safety Today event. Shop ChooseNissan.com. By Raymore and Flanagan Furniture, furnishing your style. By Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, and by ChevyOffers.com. Well, the folks in California spend a lot of time waiting for the earth to move. Last night, with one swing of his big bat, Bartolo Colon made the baseball universe move. And a pleasant good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to San Diego and a very happy Mother's Day. Gary Cohen, Ron Darling with you today as the Mets wrap up their 4-game series against the San Diego Padres. And the entire baseball world, especially here in San Diego, is still talking about what Bartolo Colon did last night. Nearly 3 years older than the next oldest player to hit his first major league home run, and he did it in style.
You know, it's amazing, Gary. That was one of the greatest days at a ballpark I've ever spent. And over the course of Bartolo's years here in the New York Met uniform, I've maybe had, half a dozen discussions with him. Last night when I saw him, he gave me one of those big bear hugs. Never saw anyone as happy as Bartolo last night, and why shouldn't he be?
And if there was anybody as happy as Bartolo, it was his teammates, and they all were just incredulous about what they saw, including Kevin Plawecki, who was standing on second base at the time.
I almost missed third base. I was so excited and just kind of in awe about the whole thing. It was really cool.
It's one of those things where you come to the ballpark never knowing what you're going to see, and you saw it.
We all know he's an entertaining guy at home plate, so to have him ambush something like that and hit a homer is pretty special.
Pienso que para mí eso es lo más grande que me ha podido pasar en mi carrera.
I think right now this is probably the biggest moment of my career.
And for a gentleman who has spent 2 decades in the game, that is that's a big moment indeed. So we turn our attention to today's game, and who knows what we might see. Let's start with Matt Harvey. It's been a struggle for Matt. He comes off a game against the Braves in which he gave up 5 extra base hits.
Well, it used to be known as Harvey Day. It's really D-Day, to tell you the truth, for Matt. You know, we're 5 weeks into the season. He has not pitched the way he's capable of pitching. His next start is going to be in Colorado. You never know what can happen here. This lineup sets up nicely for him. You would expect this is where he turns the corner.
And another hard-throwing, struggling right-hander, Andrew Kashner, goes for the Padres.
Andrew Kashner is one of those enigmas. He's a guy that should be much better than he is. Pitches better here at Petco Park, where his record is almost 500. But he has the ability to really shut you down. 2 career one-hitters, shutouts in his career.
The day after Bartolo begins in San Diego on Mother's Day in California. It's the Mets and Padres, all the action on Pix 11. Ball is brought to you by Dunkin' Donuts. America runs on Dunkin'. Get to Citi Field for Free Shirt Friday, May 20th. The Mets face off against the Brewers at 7:10. All fans in attendance will receive a T-shirt featuring the Mets pitching staff etched into Mount Rushmore, courtesy of Goya. For tickets, visit Mets.com/Free Shirt Fridays. Themes of the game brought to you by your local Hyundai dealer.
Loud noises. Well, the Mets 4 home runs in a game 5 times. I'm kind of a big deal. Cespedes is a big deal. 10 home runs in the first 29 games. And Andrew Kashner immediately regrets this decision of first inning runs with 9. So stay classy, San Diego.
Nicely done. Mother's Day in San Diego. The Mets wrap up the series with the Padres. Even the Padres' mom is here. First pitch coming up.
Lanzamiento, saca batazo elevado, fuerte por la parte izquierda, va atrás, bien atrás, lleva color, lleva sabor. Hasta la vista, baby. Cuadrangular de Bartolo Colón pone el juego 4-0, la sacó.
Good friend Max Perez Jimenez with the Spanish radio call. That was fantastic, especially the hasta la vista baby part.
I love Max, one of the nicest men of all time, and congratulations. What a great call.
That was just great. Here's your starting lineup brought to you by Nissan. Shop ChooseNissan.com. Neil Walker fouled a couple of balls off his shin last night, so he's out of the lineup for the second time in the last 3 days. And see on the Mets bench, they've got Colon listed as a right-handed available pinch hitter.
That's hilarious.
That's very nice.
That's great.
Eric Campbell gets a start with David Wright getting the day off as well.
Well, Andrew Kashner was a former #1 pick of the Chicago Cubs. They've been waiting for him to come into his own. He was traded from the Cubs here to the Padres for Anthony Rizzo. So he better start going. Defensively behind Mr. Kashner today, brought to you by Tri-Honda dealers. Melvin Upton Jr., John Jay, who's had a great series, of Matt Kemp, Wallace Ramirez. Rosales is in. We saw Weeks with his hamstring issue last night. Christian Bethancourt, the ex-Brave, behind the plate. Let's look at the defense. Is brought to you by Tri-Honda dealers.
Curtis Granderson takes a strike, and we're underway. Curtis fighting through a slump right now, just 2 for his last 28. 1 for 12 in this series. And Kashner bounces one. A ball and a strike. Curtis's average down to 205, on base percentage down to 305. Mets struggled through the first 2 games of this series, but then hit 4 home runs last night, including the unlikely blow by Senor Colon. No, pink abounds today. Ramon De Jesus, the home plate umpire, wearing the pink mask. That's laced to center field, but on comes John Jay. He'll have to play it on the hop, and Granderson's got a leadoff hit. Curtis, who took an 0 for last night, snapping a streak of 37 straight games where he reached base on the road, starts a new one today.
Pretty good pitch there, running away from Cashner, gets it off the end of the bat, and that's why that ball dropped in front of John Jay.
So the Mets have the leadoff man on, and now Asdrubal Cabrera moved up to the 2 hole with David Wright sitting, and this has been a good look for the Mets with Cabrera in the 2 spot. 3 for 11 in this series, hitting .301 for the year.
348 out of that number 2 hole.
Well, the last time the Mets saw Cashner here in San Diego, he had a record-setting performance, not necessarily in a good way. I mean, there was a good aspect to it, right? He struck out 12 batters in 4 2/3 innings, but he gave up 11 hits, and he became the first pitcher in Major League history to go less than 5 innings, give up double-digit hits, and strike out double digits. And then the next night, Noah Syndergaard did it. Same ballpark.
Maybe it's just this ballpark that crazy things happen, right?
Well, we have seen a lot of crazy things. I was thinking back on that last night after the game. Saw David Wright make that incredible barehanded catch going out toward left field.
Was the Beltran-Cameron thing here?
Exactly right. The Beltran-Cameron collision in right center field was in this ballpark.
Julio Franco dropped a home run into the little thing there. I don't know what you call that there.
The jury box. That's when he became the oldest player ever to hit a home run.
Okay.
So, you know, in a relatively short period of time, without a lot of games having been played here, a lot of stuff has happened when the Mets have come to Petco Park.
I got in a pedicab race here one night after the game. That was fun.
I'm sorry, you got into what?
I had some friends here, and I paid the pedicab guys $100 if we could take over and race back to the hotel in their pedicab.
How'd you do?
Killed them. Maybe close.
Cabrera dropping down a bunt, but the catcher is right on it. Bethancourt's throw gets the force. Cabrera beats the relay. Well, they opened up the left side of the field on the 3-1 count, so Cabrera tried to take advantage of it, but couldn't get the ball away from home plate.
Yeah, he didn't bunt it hard enough. He tried to. Watch, he tries to push it, but it just hit right into the ground and straight up to Bethancourt. Showed some nice agility to make that play at second base, and Cabrera too quick at first.
That was the third baseman Wallace covering at second, and he showed some nice footwork, switching feet on the bag to get that throw.
He did, and you know that's a big issue now. You got to make sure you keep your foot on the bag.
So it's a 2-5 put out. Cabrera at first with 1 out, and here's Conforto, and he laces one into center field for a base hit. Cabrera to second, he'll pull in there, and so the Mets have 2 aboard with 1 out. So Conforto, who snapped an 0 for 17 stretch with a home run his last time up last night, gets a first pitch base hit.
And it was an at-bat we weren't sure that he was going to take because of he's usually replaced defensively, but Terry Collins thought he might get one more at-bat. He pushed him out there and he hit a bomb. Maybe he's got it going again.
So now Cespedes will get an opportunity. Boy, the Mets have put pressure on pitchers in the first inning virtually every day this season.
Well, John DeMarsico showed us too. 9 first-inning runs by Cashner. It takes him a while to get it going.
Mets have outscored the opposition 23-5 in the first inning this year, and even when they haven't scored in the first, they've built up big pitch counts.
More importantly, that wasn't John DeMarsico. That was Eddie Says did those 9 first-inning runs.
Cespedes has homered twice in this series, including in the first inning last night, and takes a first pitch curve that's boxed around by Bethancourt.
So Brett Wallace really wanted to touch the bag with his left foot, but the throw took him off the bag, so he scraped across and changed feet to his right foot and made the play. He's a big man, Brett Wallace, but nimble-footed.
Was Bethancourt crossed up on that last pitch? He didn't catch it cleanly, and he's out talking to Cashner.
Yeah, he definitely was.
I mean, we've saw Bethancourt with the Braves, highly touted prospect who just never clicked, and one of the problems he had was simply catching the baseball.
And they always thought of him as defense first, hitting second, but his defense never lived up to snuff.
Cespedes 10 home runs in the Mets' first 29 games. That's hit sharply, could be 2. Rosales with the flip, Ramirez the quick toss, and Cespedes is out. Close play. We'll see if the Mets challenge it. Ramirez with the one-hop throw, and a look and listen play at first base. Trip Gibson called him out.
Well, nice job by Ramirez flying across that bag and throwing on the run, and scooped up by Myers at first base. Was he in the air? Yes, he was. Good call.
Terry Collins is coming out of the Mets dugout, and we'll see if he decides to challenge this call. It could be that he's challenging the play at second base.
Well, he shouldn't challenge that one because Ramirez was on the bag. He shouldn't have to challenge either play.
He's going out to talk to Jerry Lane, the second base umpire.
Watch Ramirez. He does a beautiful job. It's just that he came across so quickly.
Did he kick the bag?
I thought he kicked the bag. Left foot's on the bag, not the right foot. So he thinks the right foot didn't touch, but he caught the ball. Watch his left foot on the bag.
Ooh.
Maybe not.
Maybe not. Terry could have a case here, so sharp eyes in the Mets replay booth downstairs, and the Mets are going to challenge the call at second base.
Boy, it looks so different from the two looks we got. The one look, it looks like he surely tagged the bag. The second look, he didn't even come close.
So on what looked like an inning-ending double play, the Mets could get the call overturned at second. That would give them a runner at second with 2 out, with Duda coming up. Let's look at it a little closer.
Well, that's our blow up, and
no, he never caught it, I don't think, unless he scraped that right foot over the bag. That's the only way he hit it, Ronnie.
That's, I mean, how are we going to be able to tell? I mean, the call was out.
Play under review brought to you by Mazda. Driving matters.
So that look is enough to change the call? I don't think so.
Well, that's a really tough one. So you're talking about the spikes on the bottom of his shoe scraping the top of the bag. Whether that happened or not, I don't know if you can possibly tell on replay.
I don't think you can tell, and if you can't tell, you know what that means?
He needs to call stands.
End of the inning.
Right. And it also means the Mets will have used their challenge for the day in the top of the first.
And no one's on the field, and Andrew Cashner's playing catch.
Well, the Padres had all come off the field. They did not realize there might be a challenge. Let's look one more time. Did that right foot scrape the top of the bag?
Well, in that look, it doesn't look so, but the other look, it looked like he scraped it across the bag.
I mean, the left foot definitely did not hit the bag, and the right foot, who knows? And it may take them a while to discern this, although we have a decision upcoming, it would appear. And the call stands. So whatever evidence there might have been to the contrary, not enough to overturn the call. So it's a 4-6-3 double play to end the inning. Matt Harvey takes the mound when we come back. Shop ChooseNissan.com. The Padres put Jamal Weeks on the disabled list with a hamstring strain. Rosales takes over at second base. We've already seen him in action. Betancourt getting the start behind the plate. Otherwise, the same group for the Padres, who've taken 2 of the first 3 in this series.
Well, those are the numbers. Not pretty for Matt. Last night, since we did FIP, I'll bring it back to you again. He's almost doubled this year in his FIP. His whip is up also. Hits per 9 innings almost doubled. And his walks per 9 innings have almost doubled.
FIP, fielding independent pitching, consisting of walks, strikeouts, and home runs, and nothing else. John Jay leads off. He's had a great series, and he fouls off the first pitch fastball, 0-1. Jay hit a 3-run homer yesterday, accounting for all the San Diego offense. His first home run as a Padre. 5 for 12 in this series with 3 extra base hits.
Every Sunday, the San Diego Padres players wear camouflage uniforms because of the great presence of the U.S. military here, of course.
So today we have pink on camo with the Sunday best and Mother's Day.
Okay, let me ask you a question, okay? I have no problem because I used to change shoes once per start. But, you know, some people can't change shoes just for one day. They have to really wear their men. And all these guys have different shoes on today.
Now Harvey at 95 strikes out Jay for the first out.
On 3 pitches. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. This one at 95 with a little zip on it and by him. Defensively behind Harvey this afternoon in the 619. Brought to you by Tri-Honda dealers Michael Conforto, Cespedes, and Granderson. Be saying that all year, hopefully. Eric Campbell takes place with David Wright, Cabrera, Flores. Walker's out with a bit of a shin injury due to Plawecki.
Drop a little Reggie Bush on us there.
Yeah, why not?
Will Myers 1 for 12 in this series. Homered his first at bat on Thursday night. Hasn't had a hit since. And Matt finds the inside corner, ball and a strike. Harvey's strikeout numbers are way down through his first 6 starts, 25 strikeouts, the lowest total of strikeouts for any 6-start stretch in his career.
Good slider. I mean, it didn't break as much, but it was a well spotted right on the outside corner. So every pitch has a purpose so far. Fastball in for a strike, slider away. Good thoughts early for Matt.
1-2 coming to Myers, and he fouls back the fastball at 96, and that's nice to see from Matt, who in his last start against the Braves averaged 92.8 on his fastball, the lowest this year.
You got to be careful away with Myers. He's got good plate coverage. He can hit the ball off the plate, and he's got 18 2-strike hits this year.
And he got him with a changeup. Back-to-back strikeouts for Harvey to start the day.
Fastball away and then change up in. So Mr. Harvey not playing checkers today. He's playing chess instead.
Well, it's no secret how frustrated Matt has been with his performance. And when you're an elite pitcher, as Matt Harvey has been, you can't let those things sit. Good slider to start off Matt Kemp, 0-1.
You know, in '87, I think I had 12 straight no decisions, and I was the most miserable person to be around that you could ever imagine. The home plate umpire, Ramon de Jesus, has a very pitcher-friendly strike zone. I know he's new, but I've seen him umpire a game already.
Ramon just recently promoted to the big leagues, first ever Dominican Major League Baseball umpire. 0-2 coming to Kemp. Low and away. And there are your umpiring quartet. DeJesus, Gibson, Jerry Lane, the crew chief, Hunter Wendelstedt, who had the plate last night, working at third. 1-2 coming to Kemp. And the fastball away. That's really popping it here in the first inning.
There's only a few left from my days playing, and there should be, what, 30 years ago. Jerry Lane is one of them that was still around. Dana DeMuth. Bach and Bob Davidson.
Of course, Hunter Wendelstedt's dad was around.
That's right.
When you were playing.
Harry was.
Matt Harvey with a changeup strikes out Matt Kemp. And Harvey strikes out the side in the opening inning. A lot of happy sidelights to Bartolo Colon's accomplishment yesterday. Steve Gelbs is standing by with some of the very happy participants.
Yeah, Gary, these people might be the only people that know quite what Bartolo Colon felt. They're maybe just as happy. This is Jimmy Zern, who caught the Bartolo Colon home run baseball, and his cute 3-year-old son, Ben, here. He's got his wife, Sarah, and his other son, who's 5 years old, in the back. But, Jimmy, as you lose your son right there for a second, take us through that moment when you see the home run coming right at you, and then you also have the realization, wait a second, did Bartolo Colon just hit that ball?
Well, where we were sitting under an overhang, and when he hit it, I'm like, God, he hit that pretty well. And it kept coming, it kind of disappeared because of the overhang, and then I saw it peering down. There's literally a 3-foot wide gap, which you could see, and it literally came straight through and luckily fell into my hands.
Now, a lot of people, when they catch a home run ball, their first thought isn't let's give it away. And I know the Mets sent someone after you to try and get that ball back for Bartolo, but you had already kind of taken it a step further and went after to the bullpen, correct, to try and give it away?
Well, yeah. Well, I had another buddy of mine from where I teach, and he was sitting in the outfield right on the backside of the bullpen, and he was talking with Ricky Bonas, like, hey, and he goes, hey, my buddy caught that ball. And when he was saying, he goes, hey, tell him to get that ball, we'll have some stuff. And by the time I got back, they already had come, the clubhouse had already come and got it from my wife. Get out of here.
Looks like there's potential for another person to catch a home run ball, but not so. Lucas Duda flying out to center field. But, you know, listen, a lot of people in that position want something back for the ball, but you guys did not ask for anything. I know the Mets did give you some things. You got to meet Bartolo and David yesterday. So what was that experience like? And also, why were you in a position where you said, we don't want anything for this baseball?
Well, I grew up a longtime Mets fan, and you know, we're not here. He's the one that accomplished it. We're not. And I'm a baseball coach myself, so knowing the significance of it, I mean, it belongs with him. So it was awesome for my boys to get the experience to meet, you know, their favorite players. And then obviously, you know, they don't get to come out here too often. So every time they're on the West Coast, we either drive down to San Diego. We're actually going to the Dodger game on Wednesday. And then we'll be going out to the Subway Series, which will be fun. But just awesome to see that, you know, these guys that we only really get to see on TV in person. It's cool.
Well, Jimmy, appreciate the time. Congratulations on catching that ball. And guys, what are the odds of that? Southern California, born and raised. His parents are from Buffalo, though, and it's a Mets fan who catches that Bartolo home run ball. Garrett?
It's terrific. Jimmy coaches at La Mirada High School locally here, and Jimmy and his family got to meet Bartolo last night. That's just fantastic.
You know, I know it's Mother's Day, but what a lesson that father taught his two little boys in giving the ball to Bartolo. That's pretty cool.
Here's Kevin Plawecki with 2 out and nobody on. He takes a curveball for a strike from Cashner. Lost in Bartolo's feet last night the fact that Plawecki had a terrific night, both catching Colon, and he picked up his first 2 extra base hits of the season, a pair of doubles, and was on base when Colon hit the bomb.
I don't think we showed it, but there's a shot of him like jumping on third base on his way home because he was just so excited.
He got home a little faster than Bart did.
Well, geez. So did Nyquist.
Plawecki 3 for 6 in this series. And he laces one toward the left field corner, headed toward the wall, and one hop against the fence. Another double for Kevin Plawecki, his 3rd in the last 2 days. And things are starting to come together at the plate for Kevin.
Well, I think it's pretty interesting with the setback for d'Arnaud, a couple of well-played games by Rivera, the wake-up call for Plawecki. Start getting some hits, and you'll play every day.
So let's see how the Padres handle Eric Campbell with first base open, and the pitcher Harvey on deck. Campbell getting just his 2nd start of the season, playing third base today, and it appears they will pitch to him, at least mildly. Ball 1 outside. Eric's only had 11 at bats this year, 2 for 11.
I mean, in the day, Gary, and you're old enough to have done games, you just never even thought about this.
Nope. The first time I remember teams starting to walk the 8-hitter in these spots was when Jeff Torborg managed the Mets in the early 90s, came over from the American League, and I'd never seen it before.
Oh, you'd be embarrassed as a pitcher to have to walk the 8th place hitter. That was like an embarrassment to you.
Now it happens a lot.
Well, it happens a lot because the manager doesn't want to be second guessed. If the pitcher comes up and gets a hit, it's like, what am I supposed to do? I walk the hitter to get to the pitcher. Hitter gets a hit, then all of a sudden you're second guessed.
Well, the theory is supposed to be you've got a weak hitter in the 8th spot and you get the pitcher leading off the next inning. That's why you go after the 8-hitter, which is what Cashner's doing.
Listen, if you had a good hitter up, if you had an 8th place hitter who was extraordinary, and there are some lineups
like when the Mets had d'Arnaud hitting.
That's right. When d'Arnaud's hitting 8, you might think about it. But you know, Campbell's been on the bench for most of April and May. He's been in Vegas and part of that time. You go after him with your good stuff, and then you have pitcher leading off an inning, which is even better.
2-2 coming to Campbell, and the breaking ball bounced foul. Cashner, during his time as a Padre, has thrived in this ballpark, not so much on the road. Looks like he's ready to go duck hunting.
Yeah. Looks like younger folks won't realize. Remember Dan Haggerty?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what he looks like. You're right. He looks like he's starting that beard for hunting season.
Maybe auditioning for Duck Dynasty.
There you go.
3-2 to Campbell with Harvey on deck. And Eric gets a 3-2 curveball and fouls it off.
Campbell's had a good at bat here.
It's been rough for Eric. He's been sitting on the bench almost every day, waiting for his opportunities. Eighth pitch of the at bat coming from Cashner, and Campbell rolls one toward the middle of the diamond, and it sneaks through for a base hit. Plawecki comes in with the game's first run. Campbell didn't hit it hard, but he found the right spot, and it's 1-0 New York. First run batted into the season for Eric Campbell.
Nothing more of a backbreaker than a 2-out rally by the 7th and 8th hitters. Wasn't hit well, but it was placed well. And was hit so softly that Plawecki's going to score easily. And good pitch location, down and away. I mean, it's almost on the shin level, and he didn't hit it hard. It just things going the Mets' way here early.
So Campbell gives Harvey the lead. Matt at the plate now looking for his first hit of the season. Remember what happened the last time I said that. That's rolled toward the right side, and that sneaks through for a base hit. So Harvey has his first hit of 2016. Again, not hit hard, but now the Mets have 2 men on for Granderson.
Well, you know, I'm always force-fed that everyone knows everything, and Myers is holding the runner on at first base. Campbell, who doesn't really steal that much, he never got off the bag. That's why the ground ball was a base hit.
So 3 straight hits from the 7, 8, and 9 hitters. The Mets, who've had trouble scoring runs without benefit of home runs, have carved one here in the second and looking for more with Granderson at the plate. Curtis singled to center his first time up. And he takes the slider off the plate for ball 1. Campbell at second, Harvey at first. Mets have 5 hits over an inning and 2/3 against Andrew Cashman. They've got a double play to get through the first inning, and time was asked for by Bethancourt, the catcher, but his pitcher didn't realize it.
So the catcher is calling timeout, and the pitcher doesn't see it. I don't know why he's calling timeout for.
One-0 to Granderson, and he ignores outside. 2-0. First run of the game brought to you by Dunkin' Donuts. America runs on Dunkin'. A Plawecki double, a Campbell single to get the first run in. And now Granderson looking for more, up in the count 2-0. And he lays off the sinker, and now it's 3-0. Well, we know that Curtis likes to swing on 3-0. This would be a good spot for it.
We saw Lucas Duda last night with a 3-0 base hit, so let's see if Curtis can do some damage.
He's swinging and he fouls it off. That's got to be in the scouting report, right? That guys are particularly likely to swing on 3-0.
It better be. I mean, they got every other stat. Those are the key stats. I want to know if a guy swings 3-0, and more importantly, I want to know if he swings at first pitch when runners are on base. That to me is the important numbers.
3-1 from Cashner. And Granderson fouls out that fastball. Now it's 3-2. Curtis hitting just 158 with runners in scoring position, but the Mets as a team are only at 209. And with 2 outs and runners in scoring position, only 163. But that improved a moment ago when Campbell got the base hit. Now the runners get set to go, and Granderson fouls off another fastball. 95 from Cashner.
Cash was throwing pretty hard because that ball was right down the middle and by Granderson on a 3-2 count.
There was a time back when he was more of a reliever that Cashner used to throw 98, 99.
When they selected him, the Cubs, they thought he was going to be the next Kerry Wood.
And he walks Granderson to fill the bases. So there's the first walk issued by Cashner. It can't seem to seal the deal in this second inning. Had 2 out and nobody on. Now 3 hits and a walk. And the pitching coach Darren Balsley will go out to talk to him.
Well, Willie going out there to settle down his pitcher. Cashner is a very, I wouldn't say volatile, but he's a kind of guy who gets frustrated at himself when he's having these kind of innings. Balsley just going to settle him down and say, hey, listen, this is what I would say. Lucky hit by the 8th place hitter. Pay it no mind. Let's just get this hitter out and get us sit back in here. We'll score a couple. All positive stuff 95% of the time. Occasionally a pitching coach comes out and goes after you.
So now Campbell at third, Harvey at second, Granderson at first, Cabrera the batter. And as Drubel takes well inside for ball 1. Cabrera got ahead in the count 3-1 first time up. Tried to lay down a bunt with the infield over shifted, but couldn't get it away from the plate, and it turned into a fielder's choice. This time they're playing pretty much straight up against Asdrubal. And the curveball drops in for a strike. Another one dropped by Davenport. There's something about him receiving the ball that's just not clean.
Do you think it's confidence, or, I mean, when he was 4 or 5 years ago, he was a can't miss huge product.
Generous call on the inside corner for Cashner, and it's 1-2.
And I told you, you're going to get a lot of calls for strikes from De Jesus. Does this come back enough to be a strike? It's not a bad pitch.
So that's got Cashner ahead on Cabrera, 1-2. Bases loaded, 2 out, a run in here in the second. And Cabrera takes that too far inside, 2-2. Michael Conforto would be next. Every team around baseball today wearing special uniforms in deference to Mother's Day. Pink hues everywhere. Two coming, and the curveball lined into left for a base hit. Campbell is in. Harvey will be held at third. It's an RBI single for Asdrubal Cabrera, and that keeps the line moving. 2-0 New York. Tenth run batted into the year for Cabrera.
He likes this number 2 hole, Gary, doesn't he? Trying to come in. No, just a curveball that just hangs over the outside part of the plate. That was supposed to be down and in, ended up and away. And Cabrera did not miss it. With Harvey running, tough doing the right thing. You got to hold him up. You don't want any collision at home or anything like that. And you got young Mr. Conforto up.
And Upton's already thrown out 4 runners this year. So Conforto gets a chance with the bases full. Michael had a base hit to center field on the first pitch he saw this afternoon. And gets a first pitch curveball that's in for a strike. It all started with 2 out and nobody on. Plawecki doubled. Campbell singled him in. Harvey singled. Granderson walked. And then Cabrera, after falling behind in the count, drove in a run with a base hit. This is going to be the 35th pitch of the inning for Andrew Cashner. And Conforto punches one to the left side. Ramirez is there to make the play. That's a 6-5 fielder's choice to end the inning. But the Mets send 8 men to the plate and bring home a couple and lead 2-0. Mets with a 2-0 lead. Matt Harvey goes back to the mound after striking out the side in the first inning.
Very impressive. Has a lot on the baseball. Four-seamer to Jay that he threw right by him. Jay's probably the best player the Padres have had in this series. And then comes back to Myers with that circle grip and throws him a little changeup on the inside part that Myers was way out in front of. And he did the same thing to Matt Kemp. You can see that ball coming right out of all of his fingers. And the ball's up in the strike zone, but the speed gets him.
So Matt off to a terrific start. 3 strikeouts. He also has his first base hit of the year. And now he'll face Brett Wallace, working with a 2-0 lead. See the strikeouts so far this year, well down for Harvey. Wallace 4 for 10 in this series, filling in at third base these days. Former first-round pick of the Cardinals.
Played in Houston for a while, didn't he?
He did.
Long inning there for Matt. A little time on the bases. So got to snap to it. Get right back to where he was in the first inning.
And he misses with the fastball and falls behind 3-0.
Well, the hits allowed per inning is alarming. The lack of strikeouts is alarming. Walking more than he was before. I mean, all of the numbers are astronomical for a pitcher of his renown.
Right. I mean, and not only giving up hits, that last start against the Braves, who were not exactly a powerhouse, he gave up 5 extra base hits among the 8 hits he allowed. So a lot of contact. Wallace takes a strike. He thought he had a walk, flipped the bat away, but Ramon DeJesus, who, as Ronnie said, has had a big strike zone, claims another victim.
I know my umpires, even if I'm not playing anymore. I know the guys that are going to call the pitches. Now, it's across the plate. Plawecki wanted it away. It's a call you usually don't get, but DeJesus is calling it. And there's some jawing back and forth.
So Wallace settles back in with a 3-2 count. And now he's got his walk. Another changeup by Harvey in a strikeout situation.
Another high changeup too.
So the Astros have their first base runner. You wouldn't think that you need to do this in San Diego, that you ever go out in the field without sunglasses. Yeah. But Asdrubal Cabrera just got a pair of sunglasses handed to him by the trainer, so he's ready now. It's really the first nice day we've had since we've been in San Diego. Still cool though. Here's Melvin Upton, and he takes a strike.
Did I tell you that I had someone explain to me why they wear the sunglasses? They're caught with the sunglasses on top of their head occasionally.
Okay.
Okay, this is the reason, and you tell me if you think it's a legit reason. The reason when they have them on top of their hat when it's cloudy out, not sunny, is that if they have the sunglasses on, it's hard to see the ball if it's cloudy. So sometimes it's just happenstance that the sun comes out while they have it on top of their ball caps.
Okay. So explain the next piece to me as Upton takes high. Cespedes has the sunglasses on top of his hat right now, and it's sunny. So why is that?
Well, that's wrong. He should have them on. But you know, people always laugh, flip glasses. That's why you wore flip glasses,
of course,
because you could flip them down and up depending on how the weather changes.
1-2 from Harvey, and that just missed. 97 from Matt. We haven't seen that in a while.
That was a good pitch. Surprised that was not called a strike.
Yes, it is sunny in San Diego. The only thing surprising about that is how rare it's been the last 4 days. Alexi Ramirez on deck. 2-2 to Upton, and that misses away, and a full count to Melvin Upton. Second straight full count for Harvey to start the inning. I mean, if the hitter who's not looking into the sun is wearing sunglasses, how can the fielder not have his sunglasses on when he's looking into the sun? 3-2, nobody out. Wallace, a slow man at first. He's not going, and Upton strikes out, and Harvey's got his 4th strikeout.
I don't think Upton had any idea what he was doing. It's a fastball. It's up and in, and I think Upton thought he fouled it back. Watch his head. Swings through it. He foul tipped it into the glove. He thought he fouled it back, but nice job by Plawecki.
Just snagged that ball in the webbing, so Harvey's gotten 4 outs, all via the strikeout. Now he faces Alexi Ramirez, and he grounds a double play ball right to Cabrera. Easy turn for Flores for the 6-4-3 double play. And just like that, Harvey is through the second. Matt looking more like himself today. He's got a 2-0 lead. Is the #1 live streaming sports service. Watch every out-of-market game live in HD on over 400 supported devices. MLB.TV Premium. It includes a free subscription to At Bat Premium, the #1 app for live baseball. Blackout and other restrictions apply. Visit MLB.TV for details. Yoenis Cespedes leads off for the Mets in the third, and fouls back the first pitch from Andrew Cashner. Cespedes grounded into a double play his first time up. But he has been raging hot. Last 17 games, 9 home runs, 26 runs batted in. And he now leads the National League in RBIs with 29. Breaking ball drilled to left field. Back goes up to near the wall. It's out of here! Yoenis Cespedes, another line drive home run off a breaking ball. His 11th home run of the season. Cespedes continues to sizzle, and the Mets have a 3-0 lead.
Well, obviously the scouting reports on Cespedes have not reached the West Coast yet. If you throw a breaking pitch to this young man in the strike zone, he is going to murder it. It's just such a good breaking ball hitter, and he very rarely misses it. Left it a little inside, and I guess he's just going for the line drive home runs this year.
It's amazing how many he's hit that have barely gotten off the ground. 11 home runs, 30 runs driven in, 10 home runs in his last 18 games. This is very reminiscent of the stretch he went on last year in August and September. Due to grounds one foul. Well, who's hot in orange and blue, brought to you by Geico. Nobody hotter than Cespedes. Updated to the moment. His 28th home run as a Met in his 83rd game.
He has the ability, when the curveball comes in, is that he stays back on that back leg and just waits for it. A lot of guys you'll see get off on that front foot on a breaking ball, and they have no power left.
Duda hits one under the glove of Myers, but there's Rosales to field it, and they get the 4-1 putout for the first out.
Well, nice job by Cashner. This is why you run over there on anything to the right side. You never know what the first baseman's going to do. and Castro made that look easy. Very good, perfect mechanics. Nice job by Castro.
Now Flores, who flied to center his first time up, and he hits the curveball on the ground down to third. Wallace boots it, and Flores safe at first. Routine play for Brett Wallace, and he'll be charged with an error.
Well, the ball was to his left. Ball came up just a little bit, not a lot, just a little bit, and kind of right through the 5-hole. That one, if you can get a little lower, you can get that ball right in the breadbasket, and it'll bounce back into the glove.
Third error of the season for Wallace. So the Mets have a one-out base runner for Kevin Plawecki. Plawecki lined a double to left and scored the first Met run.
See, if he gets a little lower, and I'm talking about your backside, sit down and get a little lower, that ball will hit you in your breadbasket or your chest, and you got a chance to keep it in front of you.
Plawecki pops it up. Rosales retreating. Kemp coming in. Kemp has the call. 2 out.
So what I meant by this is that you don't bend over at the waist. What you do is you get that fanny down another 3-4 inches and you bend that way. And the lower you get and the more your glove is out in front of you, it'll run up into your arm, into your breadbasket or chest. It'll stay right in front of you. And with Wilmer running, you throw him out at first base. In his defense, you know, he's played first base. That's probably his best position.
There's Eric Campbell, who drove in the first run with a base hit to center field in the second inning. His first run batted into the year. Flores at first and 2 out. Harvey on deck. Ball and a strike to Campbell.
Did you just tell me that the Braves are 1-15?
Yeah, they just lost an 11-inning game to the Diamondbacks on Chris Herman's second home run of the game. Chris Herman, the backup catcher for Arizona. So the Braves with that loss, 7-23, 1-15 at home. Broken back grounder toward the hole, and Campbell has snuck another one through. Hit a soft base hit to center his first time up. This time a broken bat hit that finds the hole into left.
You know, we talked about the other day with Rene Rivera catching. He gets a chance, he hits a 2-run home run. Here, David Wright sitting on this Sunday. You put Eric Campbell in, what do you get? You get 2 knocks, one for a ribby, and this broken bat one that finds the hole. 25 guys all pulling on the same rope.
You know, with Neil Walker out of the lineup today because he fouled a couple of balls off his shin last night, he's got kind of a nasty bruise. I asked Terry Collins whether he reconsidered putting Wright in the lineup today to compensate for that, and he said not even a thought.
That's good.
You know, we have to protect David. He has to have these scheduled days off. He feels as though the day game after a night game is the hardest one for him. So they're not going to alter the schedule, so you play Flores and Campbell today, and Campbell's come through in a big way. Harvey hits one at the plate, foul ball. Well, I'm really looking forward to this. Your old teammate Kevin Mitchell is going to join us in the booth.
One of my favorite teammates of all time. He's from here in San Diego. He was with the coaches and the players today. MVP, 2-time All-Star, but even more than that, just he's great to be around.
Line out to shallow right. Kemp coming on, and he dives. And does he hang on? He does. Side retired. Kemp had to come in on that ball hit by Matt Harvey, and that saved a run. Doesn't move as well as he used to in the outfield, but he's made a couple of nice catches in this series. Kemp with a good play. 3-0 New York. We're going to the bottom of the third in San Diego. Mets' last day in this gorgeous city before they head up to L.A. Some facts about San Diego, established in 1769. Ronald Reagan was the first driver to cross the Coronado Bridge. I didn't know that.
Wow.
WD-40 was invented in San Diego. Hypnotism banned in the San Diego public schools. And many songs written about this great town.
Oh, Springsteen's Balboa Park. WD-40 might need some of that for the apple if the Mets continue to hit the home runs that they're hitting.
Christian Bethancourt leading off in the home third. Bethancourt making his 7th start of the year, facing Matt Harvey, who struck out 4 in the first 2 innings. And Matt misses away a ball and strike.
Frustration on Harvey's part. So the floating strike zone so far for the home plate umpire.
He's called some generous strikes. That time not so generous. Bethancourt fouls it away. Bethancourt acquired from the Braves in the deal that sent Casey Kelly to Atlanta, relief pitcher we saw earlier this year. You mentioned the Braves 1-15 at home. It's the worst start for a team at home since the 1913 New York Yankees started 0-17 at home. Harvey facing the lower third of the order in the third inning. Adam Rosales on deck, and the pitcher Cashner. 2-2 to Bethancourt. Bounced foul.
Boy, it's amazing. Lots of use of the changeup and fastball. We've seen some sliders. Not one curveball yet. Here we are in the third.
Two coming. And he just got a piece of the slider to stay alive. That made his 3rd major league start here against the Padres. First one was in Arizona, second one in San Francisco. Swing and a miss. He got him with a high fastball. 5 strikeouts for Matt. Some more information about San Diego, and this about the tremendous military presence here in San Diego. The Navy is the #1 employer in this town.
Yeah. First 2 Navy SEAL teams based here at the amphibious base in Coronado.
Padres have always been very vigilant about honoring the military here, and there's an exhibit here showing all the Major League Baseball players who have served in the military.
Saw our own Jerry Kuzman there. It's really what makes this stadium unique of all the stadiums. I remember Jack Murphy Stadium when all the Navy personnel would come and they'd file in, of course, and file out, and it was just amazing.
1-2 to Adam Rosales. Struck him out. Matt is dealing today. 97 to strike out Rosales. That's 6 strikeouts in the first 8 batters.
Well, you just see a young man with renewed confidence, a guy who came here instead of trying to nibble and finagle around the strike zone. He said, caution, beware. I'm just going to go after him.
Cashner trying to butt his way on. A nice bunt. Campbell fields it, and the throw too late. And that's how the Padres get their first hit of the day. A bunt single by the pitcher, Cashner.
Well, someone fell asleep there. Anytime you have the pitcher up, you got to play him even with the bag, at least for the first pitch. And Campbell was all the way back. Cashner can run for a big guy.
Could Campbell have barehanded that ball, or was it just hit too hard?
He had to barehand it. That's the only play he had. And luckily, Cashner looked like he stepped on Duda's foot. or it could have been worse.
There's John Jay. So Harvey, who had struck out 6 of the first 8 batters, gives up his first hit on a bunt. I guess if pitchers can hit home runs, they can get bunt hits too. Yet another argument against folks who might want to impose the DH on the National League. You never know what these guys might do. Nasty slider by Harvey, and it's 0-2.
I am 100% behind no DH in the National League. Good breaking ball here by Matt. But I still feel they're going to do it someday. Someday. They've done everything else to irritate me. Why don't they do that?
Cashner takes off, and Jay on a 2-strike count has to protect. If Cashner would have stolen that base easily. Got a tremendous jump. Cashner has 2 stolen bases in his major league career.
Well, not holding him on, so why not?
Dude is still playing behind him, but a little tighter this time. Jay tries to hold the swing, and he stopped it in time. 1-2.
You love to see that, right? Cashner took advantage of something. Mets kind of falling asleep here on a Sunday afternoon and took off.
He's playing the game.
Yeah.
Isn't that what you're supposed to do? Jay slaps one. Flores is there. Side retired. Matt Harvey looking very much like Matt Harvey today. 6 strikeouts in the first 3 innings in a 3-0 Met lead.
Fans, I am pleased to present to you through the medium of this film an inside picture of our Pacific Coast League. We are now in our most important season, for this is the year in which we have declared our intention to become a major league. This is big league territory. We have big league fans and big league players and a big league population. Just watch us go.
Oh, that is fantastic. That's from 1947, a bid for the Pacific Coast League to become a major league, and you notice that was Casey Stengel at the end of it.
With the Oakland Oaks. I remember I had to pitch a game when I was in Oakland, and we had to wear the Oakland Oaks uniform for the day.
There was a time before Major League Baseball came to the West Coast in 1958 where there were players in the Pacific Coast League who were so well compensated, they didn't want to play in the major leagues. They were so comfortable and paid well enough to stay in AAA and play in the PCL.
Well, they had less restrictive rules about moving from team to team, so you could really take your talents anywhere you wanted to. There was one in Hollywood, Los Angeles, but Bo Belinsky was one of the players on the team. DiMaggio played for the Seals. All the DiMaggio brothers played for the Seals.
One time, Ralph Kiner was the general manager of the minor league San Diego Padres before they became a major league franchise.
That's right. He had the Ice Capades 1 year here.
Ralph was a big fan of the Ice Capades.
Yes, he was.
0-2 to Granderson, has been on base twice today with a walk and a single. And he goes down swinging on the changeup. Cashner has his first strikeout of the afternoon. That'll give you an idea how much he has struggled. Cashner is usually a strikeout per inning guy. Here's Asdrubal Cabrera, who singled in a run in the second inning, 1 for 2 on the day. Mets with 3 runs and 8 hits. They got 2 in the second, all without a home run, all after 2 were out. A different kind of a Mets rally. And then Cespedes homered leading off the third. A few years ago, before the Mets put together this kind of lineup, that's the only way that they could score runs, was by stringing singles together.
They're not that kind of team anymore.
The Mets still have scored the highest percentage of runs via the home run of any team in the majors this year.
The Rays surprise you at all being up there?
Well, the thing about the Rays is Cabrera fouls one off his foot. They don't score that many runs.
Yeah, that's right. And Longoria's got off to a quick start. Sousa's got some power. Kiermaier's hit the ball out. Casali.
The guy who plays small ball on that team is Logan Forsythe.
Yes,
had a really good year.
Had a good year last year, coming out year. Hit that right off his front toe.
Forsythe started his career here in San Diego, never amounted to much, but has become a real good player in Tampa Bay. 2-2 to Cabrera. Pirates outscored the Cardinals today 10-5. Weird Cardinal season continues.
Yeah, well, they're still not pitching.
Hooked, and a nice stop by Wallace, the third baseman. And he throws out Cabrera. That's not a spot Wallace is accustomed to being, and he made a terrific play. That's a 5-3 putout.
5-3 with a check. Just the one hopper that he almost overran. It came back on him, took a little crazy hop, but stayed with it. And on that side of the diamond, he got plenty of time.
It's more comfortable over there than he did at third base.
Well, they didn't have to move because the left-handed Conforto is coming up.
Michael's 1 for 2 today, and he takes a curveball for a strike. So Cashner looking for his first 1-2-3 inning. Back in the second, he retired the first 2 batters, and then 5 straight Mets reached after that. He ties up Conforto with that cutter, and it's 0-2.
Boy, almost every pitcher in baseball has gone to the semi-windup. They start in a stretch position like Syndergaard we've watched with the Mets. They take one little tiny step back and go to the plate.
What would Bob Feller say?
Bob Feller and Robin Roberts and Don Larson.
Well, Larson was the first guy who went to this kind of delivery, wasn't he?
Is Mitch really coming on? Because, you know, he is an 86 Met, and they tend not to always show up. So.
Well, they get there eventually.
No, sometimes they don't show up.
You guys always rallied late. You know? Game 6 against the Astros, Game 6 against the Red Sox. You're always there when you need it.
I shouldn't say that lightly because he's just undergone some surgery on his neck that they had to fuse some things together. So he's moving a little slower than he did in our day.
Another chance for Wallace. He handles the short hop and throws out Conforto. So Wallace working the right side of the diamond. A couple of 5-3 putouts. Gets Cashner a 1-2-3 inning.
to left. Going back on the ball is Mitchell, and it short hops the wall. Rice for 2. The throw in. They got him.
In 1986, Kevin Mitchell was a 24-year-old rookie with the Mets who did just about everything for them. And here he is, Kevin Mitchell, joining us. How are you?
Well, I'm doing all right. I'm just trying to get over some little injuries. You know, little head bumps on my head. That's it.
By the way, that was a pretty decent throw. Well, why didn't you catch it in the air?
Well, I could have caught it, Ronnie, but, you know, I just tried to make it so dramatic that year. So.
What are you doing with yourself, my man?
Well, like I said, Ronnie,
You've been
earlier,
hurt, right?
I've been rehabbing.
Yeah.
And physical therapy a lot. Had a little spinal cord injury where it put me down in paralysis last year.
Wow. That's a tough fight.
Yeah, it's a battle. You know, as an athlete, you think you're going to fall back and come back and be your same self, but it haven't happened. It's going to take me another year before everything gets right.
You know what's strange for me is that, you know, you and I were close. I loved you as a teammate. You just, you made me laugh. I hated when they traded you because I knew you were going to be a big part of our team. But, you know, the thing about it is that you're the only player that I ever had to face after you were traded that I didn't like facing. And then not only because you were a great player, but like I was friends with you. So when you would come up, I was like, God, I really like this guy, but I'm supposed to hate him because I got to get him out. And when you went to the Giants, who moved you up on the plate? Because you had always been kind of away from the plate a little bit, and you got to San Francisco, and all of you was all over the inside part of that dish.
I got to give the credit to Dusty Baker and Willie Mays. You know, they moved me up, put heavier bats in my hand, and made me use my hands a little more. And by facing you too, when I was with the Giants, I knew you was a good friend of mine, you know, and I knew I can get up there and be comfortable with you. So it was actually fun facing the team that I came up with.
So you worked with Willie Mays to work on your approach at the plate. That must have been incredible.
Yeah, he worked on me in my outfield in spring training and my hitting. You know, he's the one that made me transfer the bats from 34s to 36 ounce.
And that led to your MVP year in 1989. Take me back to '86 because you were a big part of the Game 6 against the Red Sox. Had a hit right in the middle of that rally against Calvin Schiraldi. What are your memories of that?
Well, the times I do remember, I knew I was pinch hit. I couldn't remember who I pinch hit for, but I knew I wasn't going to make the last out. It was just fun being there with these guys. I learned a lot from the guys that was on this team, you know, especially these pitchers here. They abused me, you know.
But didn't Schiraldi, weren't you with him in the minor leagues, and he kept telling you, if I ever face you, Mitch, this is what I'm going to throw to you to get you out?
He was actually my roommate, right? So he always told me, we sit around in the room, and he always told me, Mitch, I would pitch you in, throw you fastball in, sliders away. So I took the fastball in and then look for a slider and end up getting it.
Now, a lot of people say that you were inside. We just had Cespedes, who was in his shorts, and he came out and got a 3-run home run. A lot of people, and it's miscasted, that you were inside and you weren't ready. You were on the bench ready to go.
Right, you know, everybody say I was out in there using the phone to make my flights. Now, you know, as a rookie, where am I going to get the money to make my flight? The Mets was paying for that, so that's all wrong.
No, it was Keith who was sitting inside with his feet up after he made out in that 10th inning.
We were just talking earlier. David Wright made a barehanded catch here. You're famous for the barehanded catch in St. Louis off Ozzie Smith. How did that happen?
Well, everybody say I overran the ball, but we boxed Ozzie that day. You know, it was all technique.
Yeah.
You know, so but I got to put the, you know, just as you play as a kid, played wiffle ball when you was coming up, and we didn't have gloves, so we always used our hand. But there was no way I was going to put a glove on that. I just stuck my hand up, and it actually went in my hand. You know, so.
You teaching kids to play now?
I'm trying to. You know, I work with a bunch of kids here at the Brickyard here, and I'm trying to get them where they can get out there and do the same things I did, but don't make the mistakes that I made. So in life.
So in '86, I mean, when we have the '86 guys back on May 28th, You've seen a lot of the guys recently. We saw each other a few months ago. But who are you looking forward to seeing, or are you just looking forward to I don't know, just seeing the crowd and the people in New York?
Man, it's an enjoyment just going back to New York, especially the fans. And, you know, I got to give my credit to the New York fans in that city, because by playing in that city, I was able to play anywhere else. Remember when we first went to Chicago, you guys told me to throw a ball in the stands.
That's right.
And they chunked it back at my head. But playing in New York, if you can play in New York, you can play anywhere in the MLB.
So true.
Mitch, hang out with us for another half inning. Kevin Mitchell didn't even need a glove. That's outstanding. Fifth inning, 3-0 New York. Yoenis Cespedes, who homered his last time up, his 11th, leads off against Andrew Kashner. And we're very happy to be visiting with former Met Kevin Mitchell, who makes his home out here in San Diego.
The Prince of Darkness just texted.
Oh, my God.
Now, who is the Prince of Darkness?
Who's the Prince of Darkness?
Supermax.
I'm just glad he's watching the game today.
He is my icon, man. He is a legend.
Who's the player you watched today and like to watch play?
This guy here hitting here.
Yeah.
Cespedes.
He's a little bit like you.
Yes.
He really is. Big swing.
And he's got that gluteus back there.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
You know, if you got that, you can hit.
Is that it?
Yes.
Yeah, if you got that, you can hit. And I like the way he got his hands, where he got his hands at.
You can't be flat in the back, Gary.
No, you can't.
You got to have a little hook in there, right?
That's right. You got to have a little bit of Nicki Minaj back there.
See, all this time I listen to Keith talk about hitting, he never mentions that. That's laced toward the middle, and it's off the backhand of Rosales, and Cespedes is aboard. See how they score that one. So you were 24. You came up with the Mets. I guess you had a little bit of time in 84. But when you come up in 86, what is that like? I mean, everybody talks about that team and how raucous they were, and what a bunch of fun guys they were. What was the experience like for you as a rookie with that team?
Fun. A lot of fun. I mean, everybody stayed relaxed on that team. I mean, it was such a good team, you know. Like I said, I learned from everybody on that team. I was just a rookie, so I have to sit there and learn from these guys.
You know, I'm asked all the time about that 86 team, what made it special, and I always say the same thing to everyone. I say the reason that team was special was one person. As Lucas Duda gets hit, so now 2 runners on for the Mets. I always tell people that Kevin Mitchell was our super sub and couldn't even get him on the field enough. That's how good that ball club was. And you even played 20 games at shortstop in '86.
Yeah, that was a blessing for me. The way Davey Johnson used me that year, especially in spring training, where I got to play a lot of positions and never did it before in my life. And it just came natural to me. I remember when opening day against St. Louis, I come in the locker room and I'm in the lineup. You know, knees started chattering and everything else. You know, I thought it was a joke the way you guys play jokes on me every day.
Jeez.
Well, Davey was a master at manipulating his lineup, and you got to play a lot that first year.
Yes, I did. You know, and that was thankful. I think that boosted up my career, just to play and learn from these guys and to go elsewhere. I didn't think I was going to be able to go anywhere else. I thought I was going to stay in New York for the rest of my career, but you know.
What kind of stuff did you learn? Like how to be a pro, how to act like a pro, or was it more technical stuff like what to look for at certain at bats, how to take at bats professionally?
And I learned that from Keith.
Yeah.
Keith always taught me when to have myself prepared and have myself ready. I was never a pinch hitter, so I was prepared whenever he told me one day what innings to have myself prepared to go out there and hit. So I was ready to hit.
Most amazing thing, and you said you like watching Cespedes play. Cespedes is an amazing breaking ball hitter. Ground ball here looks like it's going to be a double play. 4 to 6 to 3. Throws out. You were from day one a great breaking ball hitter. Where did that come from?
Well, everybody asks me, the whole saying is, you know, look for fastball, just a breaking ball. Yeah. My whole career, I looked for a breaking ball because I always felt that nobody in this game could throw a fastball by me.
You knew you were quick enough.
Yes. And you see how much I crowd that plate.
Oh, man.
So after '86, you get traded here to San Diego, which I guess had to be a mixed blessing, right? You didn't want to leave New York, but yet you're coming back to your hometown. How did you react when you found out you'd been traded?
Well, it was a nightmare because I got home and I had press at my house and didn't know what it was for. And I felt that I was traded here. Stanley Jefferson was shot at me. And I got here and it was just a nightmare. I was traded 2.5 months later.
Wow. So it wasn't a fun homecoming.
Oh, it wasn't at all. I mean, they felt that I was, you know, influenced by the streets out here, and which I wasn't. And it was just a blessing that I did go to San Francisco.
Mm-hmm. One pitcher, prime of your career, you had to face to take him deep. Who's the pitcher? Other than me, don't name me now. And name anyone else.
In my career?
In your career, you got to go deep, tie game in the ninth. Who do you want on the mound?
I'd probably say John Tudor.
That's a tough get. Myers unable to get to that ball.
Tudor used to be good at keeping that ball down and away, but you were lurking in the weeds every time he tried to come in, right?
Yeah. I mean, what I learned playing in the league, you know, for so long, that most left-handed pitching, you know, it ain't like it is now because everybody throw hard now. You know, so it looked like 200 out there. But I've always looked like with Glavine, them, I take the changeup away. I didn't felt that they didn't have enough to get in on.
And the guy that you hated to face in your prime?
Probably be Ron Darling.
Thank you very much.
We just got the numbers. 6 for 35, Ronnie. You had the upper hand.
Yeah, but there's 2 home runs there, and he took, you know, 31 seconds for Cologne yesterday. I think he took longer when he ran around the bases when he hit the home runs off me.
Zlowacki grounds one to third. Wallace straightens up and throws him out, and that ends the inning. It's been so much fun, Mitch. We look forward to seeing you at Citi Field later this month.
All right.
Take care of yourself. I'll see you in a month.
Kevin Mitchell joining us at Petco Park in San Diego. Box score as we go to the bottom of the 5th inning. Only one hit for the Padres against Matt Harvey. There was a bunt single by the pitcher, Andrew Kashner. Harvey has been resurgent this afternoon. 7 strikeouts through the first 4 innings. And he's got himself a 3-0 lead as we go to the bottom of the 5th. It has been the middle of the game that has been the kryptonite for Harvey. We'll see whether he can get over that hurdle today. Melvin Upton leads off for San Diego and takes a curveball for a strike. Upton struck out his first time up. The 7 strikeouts for Harvey today already matches his season high. Give you an idea of where he's been and what he's up to today.
So curveball to start, slider for the second pitch. Not a great slider, but he's been having it for the most part on the outer part of the plate. Fastball up.
0-2 to Upton. Missed away 1-2. That was so much fun having Kevin.
Did you have fun
Mitchell
with him? Yeah. Because do you know him well?
I did not know him at all.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, he's never been back to Citi Field that I can recall.
He's one of my favorite teammates I ever played with, and I guess you probably couldn't get 2 different kind of personalities. You know, I come from the East Coast, he's from the West Coast, but from day one we hit it off, and he was quite an athlete.
Well, I mean, he became a superstar.
MVP.
Yeah. I mean, he was such a feared hitter for a few years there with the Giants. Changeup misses. 2-2 to Upton. Alexi Ramirez on deck, then Christian Bethancourt. And Upton able to golf away the changeup and stay alive. Loved that changeup against the right-hand hitters.
He really has, and I think he's tried to counter with that because his breaking ball has been 50-50 to me. Half the time it's good, half the time it's not.
Upton skies 1-7. And Cespedes, no need for sunglasses. One away. New York Mets baseball is brought to you by Modell's. Shop Modell's Sporting Goods, your fan gear headquarters. Come on, Met fans, you got to go to Moe's.
Now, I was kiddingly when I said Prince of Darkness. The reason I said that about Keith is that Keith is different now because he's fun-loving. He has a blast with us. But when he played, he was really, really serious every single day. There was no, you know, when he got to the ballpark, he was all business every day. And that's why a lot of the young players learned a lot from him.
Who dropped that nickname on him, though?
I don't know where it came from.
One and one to Alexi Ramirez, who grounded into a double play his first time up. The Nats and the Cubs have gone to the bottom of the 10th. Tied 3-3. Cubs threatening, trying to sweep a 4-game series. And it's in at the knees for a strike. 1-2 to Ramirez. Ramirez lines one into right field. And the Padres have their second hit. Granderson gets it back in quickly, and Ramirez settles for a 1-out single.
Well, this is just good hitting. Fastball on the outer half of the outside corner of the plate, and he went that way with it. Nice job by Curtis to cut that ball off, or it would have been extra bases for Ramirez.
Here's Bethancourt, who struck out his first time up. And he takes a fastball for a strike from Harvey. That has walked one. He struck out 7, giving up just 2 singles over the first 4 1/3. The 5th and 6th innings have not been his favorites this year. So this is a key time in the game for Matt after giving up the hit to Ramirez. He's got the 7-hitter up there. Adam Rosales waiting on deck. In the air to deep left field, and that is well gone. Into the second deck off the bat of Christian Bethancourt, a 2-run homer, his second of the year. And the 5th inning strikes Harvey again. The Met lead is cut to 3-2. Fourth career home run for Christian Bethancourt, and he had every bit of it.
Well, the 5th and 6th innings, you see the numbers and how it changes for Matt. It's really been his Waterloo.
So he'll try and regroup against the number 8 hitter Rosales, whom he struck out his first time, and he misses with a slider.
4-seamer or maybe 2-seamer running it in, and Bethancourt was ready. As far as it gets here at this ballpark.
Oh, that was the back of the second deck. Fourth home run Matt's allowed this year. Gets the curveball over to Rosales, 1-2. Rosales filling in at second base. Spangenberg got hurt. Weeks got hurt. Now Rosales has taken over that spot. Harvey ahead, 1-2. He bounces that one. 2-2.
Joe Madden at it again with runners on first and second in the 10th. He intentionally walked Bryce Harper. That was Harper's 12th walk of the series.
And he got away with it. Rosales goes down on the breaking ball. That's 8 strikeouts for Matt Harvey, his season high, 2 out of the inning.
Well, this is what we saw from Matt last year. He didn't use the slider as much, and he used this good curveball against right-handed and left-handed hitters. Great spin, 12-6. Sit down Rosales.
So 2 out and nobody on. Now the pitcher Cashner, who had the first San Diego hit, a bunt single in the 3rd inning. Ball and a strike to Cashner.
Cashner's a pretty good hitter in his career. He's got a double, triple, home run, 7 RBI. Takes it serious.
And again, he thinks about bunting his way on and offers at it. So that's a strike, 1-2. There's been a tendency with Matt this year when things start to go a little south to hang his head a little bit.
Yeah, his, you know, when things are bad on the mound.
That gets away from Plawecki on strike 3, and Cashner is safe at first. So it's a strikeout and a wild pitch, and Cashner is aboard as the tying run.
I think what happens, Gary, is this good breaking ball. This is a ball that Plawecki's got to handle. He's got to get his bat in front of it. If you're throwing a curveball in that situation and looking for the strikeout, it's going to be in the dirt 99% of the time.
That's a hard one to understand there from Plawecki. He just never moved for that ball.
It's just lazy. That's all it is.
So the tying run at first with 2 out. And here's John Jay, who struck out and grounded out today. And he chases a high fastball. Cashner dancing off first base that time. And I think time might have been called before that pitch.
Well, time was called because the bench was telling Lucas Duda to get and hold the runner at first.
So the pitch did not count.
So the first base ump is the one who raised his hand for time.
So take that strike off the board. due to now holding Cashner, who attempted to steal a base the last time he got on. And the changeup in for a strike to Jay.
You're talking about Matt. What happens a lot of times when you have a Waterloo kind of inning, 5th and 6th have been tough, you start to think in your head that, boy, what's going to happen now in the 5th and 6th inning?
Jay cracks one down the right field line. That'll go to the corner. Cashner on his way to third. Granderson plays to Kara. Cashner being waved home. Here's the relay throw by Flores to the plate. And he's out! Tagged by Plawecki as Flores made a perfect throw home. And we'll wait to see if the Padres challenge the call, but that appears to be the third out of the inning.
Well, everything done right by Granderson to Flores with the BB, one hop home. And if you watch his hand, to get his left hand in before the tag. The fans here are saying yes. We'll have to see. See the tag by Plawecki? It's up around the elbow. Does he get his fingers in? I think he does.
We'll wait to see if the replay umpires have enough evidence to overturn the call. If they do, the Padres will have tied the game. Cashner, the pitcher, making the headfirst slide into home.
My feeling about this play, Gary, I see it made all the time, is the catcher, when he catches the ball, reaches for the runner who's sliding. What you have to do is you have to take away the back corner of the plate. That is the correct play. My other pet peeve is because there's no more collisions at home plate. Watch this. He reaches for the runner. You got to reach for the back of the plate because that's where his hand eventually has to go. And my other pet peeve, and the only guy I've seen who doesn't do it, is Russell Martin. Take your helmet off. There's no more collisions. You'll have better peripheral vision if you don't have the helmet on.
I don't think he ever tagged his arm at all, Ronnie.
He might not have.
I think this is going to be overturned. But we'll wait to see what the folks back in Chelsea have to say.
Well, we know what the vote is here in San Diego.
Well, the only concern, I think, would be whether the hand went on the plate or over the plate, right? If his hand is on the plate, I think he's absolutely safe. But there's a possibility his hand was in the air.
He's going to be safe at home.
So John Jay, who has tormented the Mets throughout this series, delivers an extra base hit, potentially driving in the tying run. We'll know in a moment.
The way things have gone for Matt in the 5th and 6th inning, that will be a safe at home a run.
But you also go back to Plawecki not blocking that third strike to Cashner, a ball he didn't even attempt to block. And that really hurts. And they uphold the call. How about that? Boy, Ronnie, you said it earlier today. It looks as though the umpires more and more are not overturning calls unless there's overwhelming evidence, and that appears to be another example of it.
Well, Mets catch a break.
The play goes 9-4-2 on Cashner on the double by Jay, and that keeps the Mets in the lead. Did the hand touch the plate? Obviously not enough evidence for them to overturn the call. And the call by Ramon De Jesus stands. Mets lead by that much, 3-2 after 5. Diego. Mets survive a replay challenge to keep the lead. Now Eric Campbell will lead off in the 6th against Andrew Cashner. Campbell's already 2 for 2. Here's the play at the plate again.
I mean, watch his left hand.
I don't know. It certainly appeared from that angle that he was safe.
And if they say, yeah, I mean, I don't get it. You know, I mean, the thing about baseball that's beautiful, we've had 2 plays here. Alexei Ramirez sprinting over the second base bag to make an artistic double play move, and then a beautiful defensive play by the Mets to get it in and have Ramon De Jesus positioned perfectly as an umpire to make the great passionate call, and for that to be the end of the inning, and the Mets all pumped up because they made a great defensive play, and you have to go, oh, wait a minute, they're going to check it.
Well, even from a fan standpoint, and I've been saying this for a couple of years now since replay was expanded, part of the joy of watching a game is anticipating the play while the ball is in play, right? It's rattling around the corner, a couple of great throws, and Cashner looks like he may have hurt himself on that last pitch.
Well, a head first slide into home, and remember it was his left hand, not his right hand. They just want to make sure that he's all right.
Anyway, you're watching a game, you're watching a play develop, you're holding your breath for the outcome of the play, you're waiting for the umpire's call, and as a fan, you want to react. You want to react to the call going your way, you want to react to the call going the other way. Cashner's coming out of the game. That's now gone. It's gone from the game. Every close play, now you can't cheer or boo, you have to wait for a couple of guys to put on headsets.
Forever.
It's terrible. It has taken a huge chunk out of the enjoyment of watching baseball, and it's a shame. Cashner coming out because of injury. We'll have to find out whether it was related to his head first slide a moment ago. Here's the last pitch he threw. He looked terrible doing that.
Well, he's a gamer, and you know he'd want to stay there if he could. But smart play by he's one of their best pitchers. Smart play, bring Brad Hand in.
So Cashner out, Brad Hand coming in. Call to the bullpen brought to you by Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. Mets up 3-2 in the 6th. We'll be right back.
Huh?
It's just weird the way he delivered the last pitch. He just looked broken. Oh, Andrew Cashner out of the game after throwing 5 pitches in this 6th inning after this in the last half inning.
You know, his head hit the ground too there. I wonder if that's part of the issue also. And it was a hard call for Glenn Hoffman because remember earlier in the game, Cashner beat out a bunt base hit. He can run. And you had Myers and Kemp both coming up that are 0 for 4 between them against Harvey, and Hoffman decided to send him.
Well, that last pitch he threw, there was something considerably wrong.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's, you know, arm related, leg related, whatever it was, but it was clear they needed to get him out of there. And Brad Hand will make his 3rd appearance in this 4-game series.
Well, it doesn't matter if he's on the Marlins or the Padres. Brad Hand pitches against the Mets every day.
Gave up a home run to Cespedes Thursday night, pitched a scoreless inning yesterday. He picks up a 2-2 count with Campbell. Whatever happens here will be charged to the relief pitcher. So Cashner's book is done. And Campbell takes inside ball 3. Cashner, 5 innings plus, 3 runs, 9 hits, 1 walk, 1 strikeout, 1 home run, and he leaves on the short end of a 3-2 score. Campbell already 2 for 2 today. And he chases one out of the strike zone for strike 3. So Hand gets credit for the strikeout. 1 out in the inning.
Just a sinking fastball away that ends up about a foot outside.
So 1 out. And now Matt Harvey comes up. Harvey snuck a base hit through the right side in the 2nd inning. He blooped one to shallow right his last time up, and Matt Kemp made a terrific play to come in and get it. So Matt is 1 for 2.
Cologne has inspired the pitchers. They're picking it up a notch.
Well, you'll be holding your breath with Harvey when he takes the mound for the bottom of the 6th. He was brilliant for the first 4 innings today, but gave up the 2-run homer to Bethancourt in the 5th, and the Padres came within an eyelash of tying the game. And you got the big hitters coming up in the 6th.
You know, one of the biggest things you have to do as a pitcher, Gary, is you got to be able to play mental games with yourself. When you're having as good a game as he's had, and Bethancourt runs into one, that's all you say. You say, you know what, he got lucky, he ran into one. Nothing is going to change. I can continue to pitch the way I'm pitching because I'm at the top of my game. He just got lucky. And I know that's a mental game, but it helps you settle down that was just luck by the hitter. And let me go back to what I was doing before.
But when you've had the relative lack of success that Matt's had through his first half dozen starts, is it harder to then do that?
Of course, much harder. That's the battle that he's going through right now.
Nubs one down to first, right at the bag. It's a foul ball. If Myers had come to get that a little sooner, it might have been a fair ball, but he laid back and it went foul. An experienced first baseman.
You know, not only do you know that the 5th and 6th inning have been tough, the other team knows that your 5th and 6th inning have been your Waterloo. And what's even worse is that the team knows that you know that you're having a tough 5th and 6th inning. So all that stuff weighs on you. But I know the Mets have they have their Harvey Dorfman, a guy. His name's not Harvey Dorfman. Harvey Dorfman was the guy who passed away, the late Harvey, who was with the Oakland A's when I was there. Who's a kind of a mental skills coach.
And he also has worked with Don Carmen, who works with Scott Boras. That's into the air to center field. It's pretty deep. Jay racing back, way back, and it's off the fence. And Harvey will pull into second base with a long double. Matt Harvey channeling his inner Bartolo Colon nearly took one out of the ballpark. Matt has a home run in his career. He almost had his 2nd.
I mean, Jay's playing him as shallow and to right field as he can as a pitcher. That's a mistake with these Mets pitchers. They just hit the ball too far, and they're too big of athletes to play like a small pitcher who doesn't have any pop. They're not going to always make contact, but when they do, they've got enough power to hit it a long way.
He was up in the air when he hit that ball. You see that? 2nd hit of the day for Harvey, his first extra base hit of the season. So he's in scoring position with 1 out for Granderson. And Curtis takes a fastball from Hand for a strike.
might work in Matt's favor. You know, being part of the game, being on base a few times, running around, scoring some runs. You know, not sitting in the dugout thinking about things.
Granderson 2 for 11 in his career against Brad Hand. And the breaking ball stayed inside. 1-1. That's now with 10 hits on the afternoon. First 9 against Cashner, and now Harvey with the long double against Hand. Granderson takes a pitch that he thought was inside, but Ramon DeJesus has been a little inconsistent on that side of the plate and called that one a strike.
Well, he's calling that ball inside the lefties a strike, but when it's away from righties, he's not calling it a strike.
One-two coming, and he bounces the breaking ball. Bethancourt blocks it. 2-2.
Well, this is what Kevin Plawecki needed to do an inning prior, right? When the pitcher's going to throw that ball in the dirt, you got to get down and block it. Good job by Bethancourt.
You know, I was just thinking, is it the case, you think, sometimes with catchers when there's nobody on base, they forget that with 2 strikes they have to block the ball?
Yeah, not if you're calling for a breaking ball from a strikeout pitcher. If you're calling for a breaking ball and you're ahead of the hitter, as a pitcher, you're taught to bury that thing in the dirt. You trust your catcher to block it because you want to get the strikeout.
Right, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
With men on base, they're more conscious of getting down maybe than with nobody on base?
That's why they should be conscious all the time. Right. I think that makes it easier.
2-2 to Granderson. Hooked down to first. Myers snags it and gets the out on Granderson as Harvey goes to third. Now there are 2 out. So 2 out, a runner in scoring position, whereas Dribble Cabrera, who's already driven in a run with a 2-out hit today. 1 for 3. Road Ahead brought to you by Chevy. First 4 days of the road trip about to be in the books. 7 more to go. First 4 in LA, next 3 in Colorado. Steven Matz tomorrow night against Scott Kazmir, a battle of left-handers in LA. Dodgers have a long trip home after playing in Toronto this afternoon.
No problem with the times in Los Angeles, Gary.
All the same. Dodgers won that game today. Rallied in the 8th inning and beat the Blue Jays 4-2, and LA will come into that series 1 game over 500.
Yeah, Howie Kendrick got a big hit.
Kendrick's been playing. Look at the probables for the series. Matz, DeGrom, Syndergaard, Cologne lined up. 3 lefties the Mets will face. And in the middle of that, Kenta Maeda, who's been a huge bright spot for the Dodgers.
When they got him, they thought they weren't sure because he had a little bit of an elbow issue, but that has been a non-issue.
Into center field, a base hit for Cabrera, his second 2-out RBI of the day. Harvey comes in to score, and it's 4-2 New York. So Cabrera got a base hit with 2 out, batting left-handed to drive in a run, and he does the same thing right-handed against Hand to give the Mets a 2-run lead.
2 out knocks for RBIs are a killer for an opposing team or pitcher, and that was not a bad pitch by Hand, and Cabrera just went down and got it. That's 2 hits he's got on pretty good pitches by the pitchers.
Now the Mets, who have been so reliant on the home run, have had 3 2-out RBIs in this game. Conforto 1 for 3 on the day, singled back in the first. They're giving him the left side of the infield with a left-hander on the mound, and Cespedes on deck. I think he might be tempted. Two 2-0 to Michael. Padres have a right-hander, Kevin Quackenbush, up in the bullpen, getting ready for Cespedes. Cabrera's base hit was the Mets' 11th of the afternoon. 2-1 to Conforto. Cespedes already has a home run today. 3 in this series. It's not supposed to be so easy to hit home runs here. Mets have hit 7 home runs in the series.
The real true home run hitters, and Cespedes is one. Doesn't matter the ballpark. They hit it anywhere.
Well, it's like Stanton. Right?
Yeah.
They moved the fences in for everybody else in Miami. He didn't really require that.
Yeah, so he just hits it, you know, to keep his game.
Almost hit it out of the ballpark the other night. Down to first, easy play for Myers. That retires the side, but the Mets tack on a run. Another 2-out hit for Cabrera. 4-2 Mets in the 6th. Last time the Mets encountered the Dodgers, it was in October, and the Mets got the upper hand in winning a 5-game thriller in the National League Division Series with some hard feelings thrown in along the way. And it's going to be fascinating to watch what transpires starting tomorrow night when the Mets see the Dodgers for the first time in 2016. For more on the series coming up, let's check in with Steve Gelb. Steve?
Well, Gary, it's been an up-and-down season for the Dodgers thus far. Playing a little better as of late, but 4-8 overall in their last 12. And the bullpen's been a real issue for them this year, but specifically over the last 12 games, the offense has really disappeared. Right now, Chase Utley is the most consistent guy in that lineup, and that is not how the Dodgers were constructed. But you look at Howie Kendrick, you guys mentioned big hit for him today, but he's still hitting under 200. And Yasiel Puig, as Myers flies out to center field. Puig is a guy that the Dodgers were hoping for a big bounce back from. First 10 games of the season, he had that bounce back, was playing really well. But over the last 20 games, he's been chasing a lot of bad pitches, has an OBP under 200. Today was benched for the 2nd time in 7 games. So Puig has been a real issue for this team as of late.
Well, let's go back to the first guy you talked about, and that's Chase Utley, because that's the first thing on every Met fan's mind. And Utley's been playing great. He's been hitting leadoff, on-base percentage right around 400. He'll be the first man that Steven Matz will face in the bottom of the 1st inning tomorrow night. How do the Mets deal with Chase Utley in the wake of what happened last October?
I have no idea how they're going to deal with it, because this is a game that's different from how days used to be. But I will say this, if I were pitching the first game against Chase Utley and the Los Angeles Dodgers, the way we used to play, he would absolutely have to get drilled.
Well, if you'll remember last year when Utley was with the Phillies, a couple of Mets got hit. Matt Harvey drilled him in the ribs, and Chase ran down to first base, totally understanding that as retribution.
No,
why won't that happen again?
I think a pitch that would hit him in the derriere or something, just to send the message, and then knowing Chase, he would sprint to first, and that would be all over with, and they'd go to play 4 games of hard-fought baseball. Now, will the young pitchers for the Mets do that? I don't know. I really don't.
Kemp strikes out for the second out. That's 10 strikeouts for Matt Harvey. His first double-digit strikeout game of the season.
Again, that changeup. Got to be 4 or 5 of those strikeouts have come on that changeup down after the heater in.
So Matt, after a difficult 5th inning, rebounding to get the first 2 hitters in the 6th, and now trying to get through this difficult hurdle. At least it has been for him. They'll face Brett Wallace with 2 out and nobody on. By the way, Steve, you looked awfully lounge-worthy out there.
Gary, this is the perch. This is new out by the beach. My official report's done, so I'm just going to hang out a little bit out here. It's 4 seats you can actually purchase, but it's almost like a lifeguard's chair out here. And if Matt Kemp was in left field, I might heckle him a little bit, but it's the good guys, I guess. So I'll leave him alone. I'll leave Granderson alone right now.
You know, Steve, you and I come from different stock. I would recommend some sunscreen, my friend.
I wear sunscreen inside. Don't ever worry about me. Okay.
I just wish Keith were here. He'd sit out there and join you in his Bermuda shorts.
You don't want me wearing those, given my complexion.
Yeah, well, I think we've seen enough of Keith's legs, too. 2-1 to Wallace, and it's low and in, and it's 3-1 with Upton on deck. By the way, 11th time in Matt Harvey's career he struck out 10 or more. First time this season. But this is a big out for him to get to try and get through this 6th inning. Behind on a power hit at Wallace, 3-1. There's a strike. Another one of those borderline pitches on the inside corner, and Wallace had one of those earlier in the game where he tossed the bat away. This time he kept it in his hand.
That's just not a smart thing to do. I can see it happening once, right, but not twice.
3-2 with Upton on deck. And the curveball misses, ball 4. That's the second walk issued by Harvey, and that'll get Melvin Upton to the plate as the tying run. Harvey at 95 pitches. Dan Worthen on the phone. That bullpen will hurry to work now.
It looked like Filene's basement in April, the way everyone got up and started sprinting around.
I was a little surprised they didn't have somebody up when the inning started. Matt was at 82 pitches.
Well,
this has been such a hard inning for him.
I think if Myers had gotten on, they would have immediately got someone up and had someone ready. But he got Myers quickly. He got Kemp quickly.
But Myers also hit the ball pretty solid.
He did. But it was like 2 quick outs, you know?
Yep. So Hanso Robles to work now after Dan Worthen pays a visit. And a king-sized out for Matt Harvey to get now, facing Melvin Upton, who's 0 for 2 today, struck out and flied out. By the way, the word on Andrew Cashner, slight right hamstring cramp. That's what forced the Padres starter out of the game. And Upton takes a slider for a strike. Been a lot of conversation between hitters and home plate umpire Ramon De Jesus today. Harvey trying to fight his way through the 6th inning. And the curveball stays inside. 1-1.
Got to be careful with that slider speed. Got to stay out of that inside middle of the plate, because that's Upton's speed of his bat right now at this point in his career.
So far off the plate. And he fouls back the fastball, 1-2. Pink on camo. Think they'll start a trend?
I don't know.
Harvey's 99th pitch of the afternoon coming up. Just got a piece of it to stay alive. chipped his bat, and he's going to go back for a new one.
Sometimes you catch that right off the end of the bat, and they have it funneled there at the end, and you can chip it.
So Melvin appears to have run out of pink bats. He'll go to a more conventional tone. Wallace at first and 2 out. 1-2 to Upton. And he fouls back the fastball on Harvey's 100th pitch of the day. New York Mets baseball is brought to you by Northwell Health. Look north. Harvey's walked 2. He struck out 10, allowed 2 runs and 4 hits. 1-2 coming. Curveball blooped, shallow right, and back goes Duda over the shoulder to grab it. And that retires the side. Lucas making the grab like it was nothing. And Harvey gets through the 6th with a 4-2 lead. Brought to you by Land Rover Above and Beyond. Couple of 2-out RBI hits for Asdrubal Cabrera. Another home run for Yoenis Cespedes, his 3rd of the series. Matt Harvey with 2 hits. Eric Campbell with 2 hits. Mets have put together 11 hits today and a 4-2 lead as we go to the 7th.
And Colon's still ready from the right side.
Matt Harvey, job well done. Got through 6 innings, 101 pitches. Was able to slam the door when he had to. Got the benefit of a call at home plate. And he will exit with a 2-run lead. Kevin Quackenbush will pitch the 7th for San Diego.
Well, it's the 2nd time we've seen Quackenbush in this series. Good breaking ball, throws hard enough. 5 base on balls. Really rules the left-handed hitters with that good breaking ball and change.
Went the 1-2-3 inning in the 2nd game of the series Friday night. Here's Cespedes, 2 hits today, including a home run. His 11th of the year. Well, you see all the players wearing pink today in honor of Mother's Day, and Yoenis Cespedes and his mom have a special story. Let's check in with Steve.
Yeah, Gary, they really do. For Yoenis Cespedes, his mother was really everything in his life growing up. His father separated from his mother, Estella, early on, and he says that his mom was his mother, his father, and one of his best friends. But beyond just that, a big reason why he is where he is today is because of his mother, who was a big presence on the Cuban national softball team. She played in the Olympics in 2000, and he actually said that when he was growing up, he used to say to his mother all the time, "I'm going to be better than you at baseball one day, better than you were at softball." And he said that alone, that thought alone, has driven him to this place. It was a huge motivating factor. He wanted to be better than his mother was at her sport.
Well, he's doing pretty well. Popped up on the right side, and Myers is there. But, you know, it's hard to keep pace with an Olympian. I mean, think about it. You've got Cespedes, whose mom was an Olympian, and you got Conforto, whose mom was an Olympian.
Well, I think people tend to forget because the majority of these young men have learned the game from their dads. But, you know, I'm like Cespedes and Conforto. My mom was the athlete in our family to this day at 77 years old, whatever. She can still have a game of catch. And in the day, she was a power hitting third baseman. And when they used to have big tournaments, and a lot of them would be in Ohio and Pennsylvania, people would call her up and fly her out to be on the ball club for that weekend to try to win the tournament. That's how good she was.
Hired gun.
Yes.
Doing a bloops one the other way, and that'll fall for a base hit. Well, he wasn't trying to, but Lucas uses the other field for his first hit of the afternoon and just his second in the series. So the Mets have their 12th hit of the game. And now Wilmer Flores is 0 for 3.
I called my mom today, McKeena, and wished her happy Mother's Day. She said she couldn't speak. She was at the casino playing the slot machines. So I said, okay, Mom, I'll call you tomorrow.
See, I got to call my mom for the second straight day because it was her birthday yesterday and today's Mother's Day. So she got to hear from me twice in 2 days.
Very nice. Tricky when you're on the West Coast.
Well, I just hope I'm not overloading her. But happy Mother's Day to my mom and to my wife and to everybody who does that incredibly difficult job of being a mom.
That's right.
Flores takes a fastball for a strike, 1-1. The game in Chicago between the Nats and the Cubs has gone to the bottom of the 12th. Bryce Harper has walked 6 times in that game and was hit by a pitch. We're told it's the first time in 100 years that a player's reached base 7 times without recording an official at bat.
I'm not great at on base percentage, but that's good, right?
Well, yeah. It's like 7 for 7 without a hit. So obviously they went into that series vowing that Harper wouldn't beat them.
Treating Bryce Harper a bit like teams used to treat Barry Bonds.
Exactly. Now they haven't walked him with the bases loaded yet, but that's the next step.
Well, they haven't played the Orioles. Maybe they play the Orioles.
Flores takes outside. Quackenbush falls behind 3-1 with Kevin Plawecki on deck. Well, that would be in what has been a fantastic start for the Cubs. Would be a huge feather if they can sweep a 4-game series from the Nats. And the Mets would be greatly appreciative. It would give the Mets a chance to jump into first place. 3-2 to Flores. There's going to be such incredible anticipation for the first time the Mets play the Nats, which is when they get home from this road trip, and the first time they play the Cubs, which is early in June, or late June, excuse me. Infinity brings you the National League scoreboard. 3 Milwaukee home runs, and they beat the Reds 5-4. Phillies rally for 2 in the 8th. Tyler Goodell and Andres Blanco with the big hits. Yeah, the Phillies win. Braves lose again at home. You see the Nats and Cubs tied 3-3. Rockies with the early lead on the Giants.
It's Eddie Butler for the Rockies.
Jake McGee in now in the bottom of the 9th to try and save it for the Rockies. Runner not going. Flores with a check swing tapper, and it's a fair ball. Betancourt throws him out, and Duda advances to second.
That was a really fine play by Betancourt. Outstanding hustle to get that ball because it was going to go foul. He made like an infielder. Well, we're seeing some of the things from Bethancourt, at least in this game, that we expected to see in an Atlanta Braves uniform. Just gets that right before it was going to cross the line. And makes the 2-3 put out.
And I love the way the home plate umpire DeJesus handled it too. First giving the safe call to say the ball didn't hit Flores, and then making the fair ball call emphatically. Ball one to Plawecki, who doubled back in the second, 1 for 3 on the day. Plawecki has had a much better series with the bat, 4 hits and 9 at bats, including 3 doubles. And the Mets will need more of that. Popped up. Bethancourt coming back, sheds the mask, but it's over the screen and out of play. Mets Health Report brought to you by Affinity Health Plan, serving the needs of New Yorkers for over 30 years. And as we alluded to, Plawecki, the Mets need him because it doesn't look like Travis d'Arnaud is coming back anytime soon. Shut down after he tried to throw yesterday. He'll try again in a few days, hoping that that discomfort will have gone away. Diagnosed with a strained rotator cuff. And that leaves it pretty much open-ended as to how long he'll be out. Popped up. Myers hoping for a chance, but that's out of play.
The benches here are very unusual at this stadium. They have some padding in front to protect the players who sometimes sit like a, well, not on the bench here. They don't sit for the Padres, but the Mets pitchers are sitting on the bench. They're sitting more back, but there's a big wide opening. You can see right there in the Mets bench.
Well, you don't see that much anymore. Usually you only have small openings now. Curve ball hit right back to Quackenbush, and he retires Plawecki to end the inning. 7th inning stretch time in San Diego, 4-2 New York.
That's my favorite moment in this game. It was unbelievable. To be the last guy standing out there with Ted Williams as he threw out the first pitch was the best. And I hope that 20 years from now somebody will be talking about me in the same vein as I'm talking about Ted Williams.
Well, we showed this the other night, but it was worth repeating. Tony Gwynn and Ted Williams at the All-Star game at Fenway Park in 1999, and Tony talking with great love about his fellow San Diegan. Two of the greatest hitters in the history of the game, and well, they couldn't have been more different, could they? Wynn and Williams.
I mean, when you think of Teddy Ball game, you think about a guy who had a little indifferent way with the press and sometimes even with fans. And Tony was just so affable and did so much for the community. He's from here in San Diego, and his numbers are just 300, over 300 seasons, 338 average now, folks. 8 batting titles. And in those days, he just was the mainstay as an all-star right fielder.
And he is greatly missed here in San Diego. Of course, latter-day coach at San Diego State, which was his alma mater, where he played baseball and basketball.
But he changed the game, because he used to have his wife, when he was on the road, record his at-bats. And then he had recorded his at-bats while he was at home. And he went home and he studied his at-bats and how he faced different pitchers, what they threw. And he had a book and he logged it. And that's what everyone does today. He was the first to do it in those days. Jim Henderson comes in to pitch for the Mets.
So Matt Harvey done after 6, allowed 2 runs, 4 hits, 2 walks, a season-high 10 strikeouts, leaves with a 4-2 lead. Alexei Ramirez leads off against Henderson, and he skies the first pitch along the left field line. Conforto coming over, has room, 1 pitch and 1 out. So I guess it goes without saying, an enormous step in the right direction today for Matt Harvey.
You know, what I really liked about him was his command of his fastball was much better. I thought the home plate umpire missed probably half a dozen to 10 strikes on the outside part of the plate to right-handers. So that's a good thing. His changeup was outstanding. His curveball was good. His slider's still short. He's not there yet with that pitch. But 10 Ks, that, you know, dominance is what you expect from Matt Harvey, and you got it today.
Anderson worked Friday night, worked a 1-2-3 inning. Facing Bethancourt, who hit the 2-run homer against Harvey in the 5th to get San Diego their 2 runs. And a fastball strike. 1-1.
Shadow's going to be playing a big part now in the rest of the game.
Ronnie, remember in the 5th inning the call at the plate and how ambiguous it looked and how surprised we were that they upheld the call?
Yes.
That's hit sharply. Flores to his left. It goes off his body and into the outfield. Trying for 2 now is Bethancourt, and he'll make it safely. It was going to be an offbeat hop, and Flores was not equal to the task. And the Padres get a 1-out base run.
Well, when the ball is hit like that, it's going to have a lot of spin because it was hit off the end of the bat. What you have to do is you have to try to get as close to the ball as you can so you can catch the short hop, because once it hits the ground, it's going to bounce to your right. And that's what happened to Wilmer there. He didn't read the spin of the ball.
Well, the official score quite generously will grant Christian Bethancourt a double. World's shortest double. That'll get the tying run to the plate in a 4-2 game. Adam Rosales, who was up twice against Harvey and struck out both times. Rosales pops one up, long way in for Granderson, but he's there. Tagging at second, Bethancourt, and he'll go over to third. So Rosales attacks the first pitch and flies out. And now Bethancourt at third with 2 out. And Alex Dickerson will be the pinch hitter. Anyway, going back to that play at the plate in the 5th inning, I just read the note that Major League Baseball sends out just for information's sake after replays.
Yes.
The replay official definitively determined that the catcher tagged the runner prior to the runner touching home plate. The call is confirmed. So it wasn't just that the call stood. They said that they had definitive proof that Cashner was tagged before he touched the plate. Now, how is that even possible?
He can write whatever he wants to write.
It's like they're flipping a coin, and a balk is called, and that will bring in a run. Henderson for some reason, did not throw the pitch as he came out of his stretch, and that's a balk, and Bethancourt scores to make it 4-3.
What you have to do, even if you catch a spike, is just lob the ball to the plate. If you catch a spike, just lob it to the plate. Just roll it to the plate. Anything that won't let you get a balk.
So now it's a one-run game. And Dickerson, the pinch hitter, takes a strike. So that's a strange run. A ground ball that went off the leg of a fielder. A fly ball and a balk. And that's an earned run.
Well, Bethancourt is the guy that is not starting. Derek Norris plays every day. He's looking for some playing time, and his hustle to get the second on that strange play to Flores is the reason why San Diego is a run closer.
Dickerson takes a cut of the fastball, 1-2. Coming off the corner with a fastball. For Jim Henderson, that's only the second run he's allowed this season. He's worked 10 in the third innings. He's been off the charts terrific for the Mets. Two to Dickerson. And he fouls off the fastball at 94.
Gary, to go back to what you were saying, definitive is a very strong word. If you want to use the word definitive, then you need to have a shot, that you have a still shot of the shot that made it definitive, that you could make that call. Don't just write that it's definitive, because I don't believe you. Until I see the shot, I saw 15 replays of the ball.
The only thing that could have happened is they could have had a different angle from the Padres broadcast, which we didn't see.
That's beautiful. Just show the still shot.
Right. How about a better idea? How about we scrap the whole thing?
Well, that's not going away.
Fly ball, shallow right, and Granderson right there waiting. That retires the side, but a weird double and a balk produce a run, and it's a one-run Met lead going to the 8th. Mets baseball is brought to you by your Tri-Honda dealer. Hurry in for great deals on the 2016 models. Have those same Pelicans been sitting in the same spot for 4 days?
11 years. It's in the same spot.
lot of beauty to see here in Southern California. We'll be heading up the coast a couple of hours up to LA for a 4-game series at Dodger Stadium tomorrow night. But first, the 8th inning, and Ryan Buchter comes in to pitch for the Padres.
Well, we've seen a lot of Buchter in this series. Talented lefty. See that ERA, .66. Good breaking ball, throws a good hard sinker.
Eric Campbell, first pitch swinging, fouls one back. Campbell 2 for 3 today in a spot start. Only his second start of the year. Playing third base with David Wright getting the day off. Once playing 4 games in LA, facing 3 lefties, so we figure David will play all 3 games against the lefties and sit against Kenta Maeda on Wednesday night. Buchter misses in, tied 1-1. Neil Walker's out on deck to pinch hit. That's a good sign. Walker was held out of the lineup today because of a bruised shin that he suffered, fouling a couple of balls off last night. And 2 to Campbell. Around the Majors brought to you by Bullmore Lanes. Nobody throws a party like Bullmore. Well, Mets are playing the Dodgers tomorrow night. Some of what they did today. Ross Stripling, an outstanding start. And the Dodgers rallied late. 2 in the 8th. Howie Kendrick, the go-ahead hit.
Blue Jays been disappointing so far.
Well, I thought it was interesting because we were watching that game, and John Gibbons brought in his closer, Roberto Ozuna, with nobody out in the 8th inning in a 1-run lead.
Well, Storen was supposed to get through the 8th. He couldn't, and he went to Osuna, and Osuna ended up giving up the tying run and then the go-ahead run.
But that just gives you an idea of the pressure on them right now that Gibby would make that move this early in the season.
Well, Brent Cecil had 5 relief losses in April. That's pretty hard to do from the bullpen.
Blue Jays now a game under 500. Baltimore winning today with 6 home runs, leading that division. 6 games over. And Campbell takes it low, ball 4, and he's on base for the 3rd time today.
Well, Bethencourt's arguing with the umpire. I mean, the pitch was right down the middle.
Must have seen it as low, I would think.
I mean, it's right down the middle.
I'm just trying to see it from the umpire's perspective. So now Walker will pinch hit. Neal went 0 for 5 last night and is hitless in his last 19 at bats. Now he fouled those 2 balls off his right leg, batting left-handed, so I guess I feel a little more comfortable setting him up right-handed. Here's last night. There's the first one. And then he did it again.
It said after the game he felt all right, but then when he came in today, that really swollen up.
So Walker has gotten off to a surprisingly good start as a right-hand hitter this year. The bat here. And Buchter looks back at his landing spot after settling that ball well out of the strike zone.
That's like a guy who's putting who misses a short putt and he goes back and repairs a spike mark like that was the fault.
Yes, that is Mark McGwire, the Padres bench coach.
He's the hitting coach under Don Mattingly with the Dodgers for many seasons when Tim Wallach was the bench coach there, and he took the position here so that he was elevated from hitting coach to bench coach underneath Andy Green. So it tells you that McGwire at some point might be aspiring to be a manager.
Fouls one off. He used to be the third base coach, was the spot in waiting for a manager, but that's before the bench coach position existed. Now bench coach is usually the last stop for an aspiring manager.
Well, there's 2 different kind of bench coaches. So the one who's the aspiring manager, and that isn't always that comfortable for the existing manager because they're there and helping you, but at the same time, if something happens for your position, they get the job. The guy you want the old timer. You want the guy who's 65, 70 years old, who's seen everything in baseball and can make sure that you cross your T's and dot your I's.
There's so much information now that is put in the hands of the coaching staff and the manager. It's almost impossible to have every T crossed and I dotted. Make sure that information is used in a way that benefits the team best, without overloading the players with too much.
You can't disseminate information on our broadcast, but you can disseminate information down the field.
Walker fouls another one out. Well, the Cubs just won. Javier Baez homered in the bottom of the 13th inning. And the Cubs sweep that 4-game series from the Nationals. They win 4-3 today. So that means if the Mets win today, they will leapfrog the Nats and go into first place in the NL East. Just off the corner to Walker, 2-2. Seventh pitch of the at bat coming to Walker, with first to throw to first. Well, almost a step to first by Booker. Do you remember years ago they put perpendicular lines from the corner of the rubber toward the foul line to show where that lefty had to step?
I think by the rule book it's supposed to be like a 45-degree angle, right?
There's an imaginary line that runs perpendicular from the foul line out to the corner of the rubber, and you have to step to the first base side of that line. Very few lefties do. At least not the ones with the good moves.
No.
Ryan Buchter, a South Jersey native. And Walker got tired of waiting for him. Buchter went to Gloucester County College. Sewell, New Jersey. Never been there.
Wow.
2-2 coming. And Walker goes down swinging. Buchter running the fastball in on him for the first out. Walker never looked comfortable in that at bat.
It was almost like the bat just didn't feel comfortable in his hands, as all the players are using a new bat today.
So 1 out and 1 on. Now Granderson, who's 1 for 3 and a walk today, 2 for 15 in this series. Campbell at first and 1 out. And Granderson takes a strike.
And you hear folks say, well, what's the difference? They're using the same weight and length of bat they always use. A hitter can pick up 5 bats and they filter through them, and there's 2 they like and 3 they hate. And they're both the same weight and same length. Just the feel. Just right on his toe is Buchter before he makes the pitch to the plate. Never seen that before.
To the right side, Rosales to Ramirez, and back to first in time for the double play. 4-6-3 to end the inning. Third double play turned by the Padres today. That gets Buchter through the top of the 8th. Still a 1-run Met lead.
Pacific Coast. It teaches control. You see a rectangle. Watch the ball go through. This represents the strike zone, meaning the height and width to which a pitcher has to pitch a ball to get a strike over the plate. Here you see Pepper Martin coaching pitchers Olson and Carl Dumbler of the San Diego team in the art of throwing the ball through this rectangle.
I don't know where our guys find this stuff, but I could watch that all day.
Oh, that was awesome.
And the best part about it was Pepper Martin was the coach.
I know.
From the Gas House gang.
Jerry Blevins will pitch the bottom of the 8th. So we have already seen Casey Stengel and Pepper Martin in Pacific Coast League films.
But did you see that those pitchers, the right-hander and left-hander, never missed the strike zone?
Isn't that their job?
I mean, once he got a miss.
John Jay doubled in the 5th inning. It looked for a moment as though it would tie the game. Andrew Castro tried to score from first. He was called out at the plate. The Padres challenged. The replays appeared to show that Castro got his hand in before the tag by Plawecki, but the replay officials saw otherwise. Mets were happy with that break. That kept them in the lead, and they've kept the lead 4-3 as we start the bottom of the 8th. Jay is 1 for 3 today, and the curveball just got a piece of it. Jay, Myers, and Kemp top of the batting order for San Diego. John Jay had some terrific years for the Cardinals. Last year hit just .210 amidst injury problems, but he has bounced back in his first year in San Diego and has played really well in this series with the bat and with the glove.
2011, that year they won the World Series, the Cardinals.
Again, he just gets a piece of the curveball to keep the bat alive. Blevins has come in the game twice prior in this series to face Jay and has struck him out both times. And this might be a one batter assignment for him again with Addison Reed getting ready. Antonio Bastardo up as well.
So Reed might be in the face of 2 right-handers, Myers and Kemp, and then Bastardo for Wallace.
Again, the 0-2 to Jay. Another curve and another foul ball. It's interesting because you usually think about Blevins being called upon to get the one big left-handed bat in the middle of the lineup. Here he's been asked to get the leadoff hitter out. Guy who's given the Mets fits. Jay is 6 for 15 in this series with 4 extra base hits. 0-2. Curveball hit sharply, and he's got a base hit. So Jay strikes again. This time Blevins unable to beat him, and that gets the tying run aboard. Terry Collins pops out of the dugout.
Well, just a good job by Jay. That's a curveball that didn't end up on the outside part, ended up down the middle, and he hooked it into right field.
So Blevins beat Jay twice, not this time. He'll take his exit. Addison Reed will come in to face Will Myers. Call to the bullpen brought to you by Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. 4-3 Mets in the 8th. working for the third straight day.
Well, Reed is in because right-handers are 6 for 32 off from a 188 average. Here to face Will Myers and Matt Kemp.
Myers is 0 for 3 today, 1 for 15 in the series. And Reed misses with the fastball for ball 1. That's bullpen. Came into the day with the best ERA in the National League. But Henderson got touched for a weird run in the 7th, and Blevins gave up a leadoff hit here in the 8th. And now Reed falls behind on Myers 2-0.
Had to use a lot of this bullpen in this 4-game series, haven't they? Considering they got 4 more in LA and then 3 in Denver.
Without a day off along the way. 2-0 coming to Myers. And that just missed. 3-0. Matt Kemp waiting on deck. See if Myers gets the green light. 3-0. He swings and fouls it back.
You knew he was swinging if you're a pitcher and you're watching. Because what did he do? He stepped out and then he dug in again. Anyone who digs in on a 3-0 count usually is going to swing the bat.
Reed has given up a couple of hits in each of his prior outings in this series, but no runs. Myers asks for time. Jay, the tying run at first. And Myers takes a strike. Full count. Yet another San Diego hitter who was on his way to first base and had to be called back.
I mean, not even close. That ball is perfect strike by Reed.
Well, Myers strikes out a lot, 34 times this year, so it'd be surprising if Jay were running here. Not going, and Myers just got a piece to hang in there. Always interesting to see how your relievers respond when you ask them to work 3 or 4 days in a row.
I mean, so far this season, I know it's early, but the Mets pitchers the starting pitchers are usually not any more than 6 innings of work is really all you're getting.
One 8-inning start from Cologne. Max went 7 2/3, but otherwise it's been hard to get much farther than 6. Myers with a slow ground ball. Tough play for Cabrera with the bare hand. Safe. Well, Reed made a great pitch. Myers rolled it slowly. Cabrera did everything he could.
Close at first, wasn't it?
Mets have already used their challenge. They would have to get a crew chief review to try and overturn this. But it does look like Myers beat it. So it's an infield hit for Myers, and now the tying and go-ahead runs are on base with nobody out, and Matt Kemp striding to the plate. Kemp is 0 for 3 today, struck out twice against Harvey, 1 for 14 in this series. And he goes after the high fastball, nothing in 1.
I mean, if there ever was a kind of a, well, that I was going to say tie goes to the runner, but he really beat that.
Yeah, he did. Myers had been 1 for 15 in this series before that infield hit. So the Mets have done a great job against the two big right-handed bats of Myers and Kemp, both of whom came in hot. And time asked for by Kemp. Late.
You know, it's the option of the umpire to not have to give the hitter time. But Reed has been holding on to the ball a long time, and hitters don't like to upset their timing either.
Jay at second, Myers at first, and nobody out. And Kemp lines one to left field for a base hit. Jay to third. He'll be held there by Glenn Hoffman as Conforto's throw comes in. And the Padres have the bases loaded and nobody out.
Fastball just stayed on the inner part. Nice hitting by Kemp. What was interesting here is this throw went through because Eric Campbell's supposed to be the cut-up man. He never got there, and Duda couldn't get there in time.
So Blevin's unable to retire his batter. Reed gives up hits to his two hitters, and now Antonio Bastardo will try and bail them out of a bases-loaded jam.
His control issues might be the issue here with the bases loaded.
Call to the bullpen brought to you by Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. We'll be right back to San Diego.
To start your weekday, join Suki Scott on the Pix 11 News team with breaking news as it happens. Caitlin Monte has up-to-the-minute traffic, and Linda Church with the forecast. 5 to 9 on the Pix 11 Morning News, where every story hits home. Well, you see this tag box, and the third base coach, Glenn Hoffman, as soon as Conforto got the ball, the runner Jay was not at third, so that's why he held him. But now the base is loaded for Bastardo with nobody out.
And Derek Norris, who has killed the Mets, will pinch hit for Brett Wallace. Norris 5 for 10 in this series. Tight spot for Bastardo. 1-run lead, bases loaded, nobody out. And Norris takes the first pitch out of the strike zone for ball one. Bastardo hasn't pitched since Tuesday when he pitched 2 hitless innings against the Braves.
The only issue for Antonio is that his control at times are an issue, and he has no room to maneuver here.
Jay at third, Myers at second, Kemp at first with nobody out. And Norris bounces one foul, 1-1. Norris came into this series hitting .138. Last game against the Mets last year was that rain-delayed game at Citi Field when he went 5 for 5. His first game against the Mets this year, he went 3 for 3.
Well, your outcome, if you're pitching, is that you either want a ground ball to the corners, a ground ball back to the pitcher so you can start a double play, a strikeout or pop-up. Those are the 5 things that can happen and help you get out of this trouble.
Low and in. 2-1 to Norris. Norris is 0 for 2 in his career against Bastardo. Melvin Upton waits on deck. 3 straight hits to start the inning for San Diego. And Norris shoots one foul. 2-2.
Good pitch by Bastardo. Just challenging at 2-1.
The tying run at third. Myers the potential lead run on second, and Kemp on first. Heavy lifting for Antonio Bastardo. Two coming. Broken bat foul. Oh, the bat wound up almost out to the third baseman Campbell.
The barrel one way, the ball by third base coach Glenn Hoffman. Just gets it off the end of the bat.
Lengthwise breaking of the bat. Scary.
Well, that's the scary part for the fans. And players alike.
Uses those lawn darts.
Yep.
Asking for time. A number of these Padre hitters have been looking to step out.
A number of them also not using the pink bat when they're up at the plate in these crucial situations.
Again, the 2-2. Struck him out. Bastardo throws one by Norris for the first out of the inning.
Huge out there from Antonio Bastardo. Talked about that in spring training he struggled to really get some mustard on the ball, and that has changed once the season started. And that ball he threw right by Norris.
So 1 down. Base is still loaded. Melvin Upton coming up. Upton's 0 for 3 today. 0 for 6 in his career against Bastardo.
Difficult thing with Melvin Upton is that he has a lot of speed. It's difficult to double him up the middle. But he is a strikeout candidate.
Bases loaded, 1 out, and Upton goes after the first pitch fastball, 0-1. Bastardo called upon after Blevins and Reed combined to give up 3 straight hits to load the bases. Pilecki sets up away. And Upton can't chase it away, and it's 0-2.
The hardest we've seen Bastardo throw since he's been in a Mets uniform.
Well, he's gone with fastballs to Upton. He's ahead of him 0-2. Popped up. Infield fly rule will be called. The batter is out. And Duda secures it, and there are 2 out. Antonio Bastardo 2/3 of the way home. Now he's got to get through Alexi Ramirez. Ramirez today 1 for 3. Melvin Upton not happy with his at-bat.
Well, when there's less than 2 outs, we gave you what you had to do to get out of that. And he did 2 of those. He got the strikeout and he got the pop-up. Now with 2 outs, a little different story.
Ramirez had a base hit and scored a run in the 5th. 4 for 15 in this series. 0 for 1 against Bastardo. And he takes the first pitch fastball for a strike.
Bastardo just keeps chucking it in there, doesn't he?
You know, you think of him as a slider king, but he has been very reliant on his fastball in this tight spot in the 8th.
Well, you hate to get beat with your second pitch. Maybe that's where he's coming from.
Ramirez, great career numbers with the bases full. And he pours another one in and gets ahead 0-2. And Ramirez barking at Ramon De Jesus about the call.
We've seen a lot of barking by all the hitters today. That ball is a flat-out strike.
I don't know what he's arguing about.
Flat out.
So Bastardo on the edge of getting through it. 0-2 to Ramirez. Just fouled it back.
Ramirez always has a better swing when the ball's away from him. He doesn't like the ball in. Maybe Bastardo will try to go back in there again and try to get the call from the home plate umpire.
Bases loaded, 2 down. 0-2 to Alexi Ramirez. Reached forward and fouled it back. Nothing but heat from Bastardo. Number 1's been good enough for him. Do you mix in a slider now? Bounce it?
Bounce it is good. It's whether you have, confidence in your catcher and stopping the ball.
Lucky let one get by in the 5th inning on a 3rd strike. And Pilecki wants to talk to Bastardo before they throw the next one.
A lot of times when you would have a catcher come out in these situations, I personally would like to give the catcher 2 pitches. Okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to paint him inside with a fastball. If he does not give me the call, then we're going to go with this. That way you don't have your signals crossed.
Then you have to remember.
Exactly.
0-2. Popped up foul. That'll come back out of play. Mets have led this game since the 2nd inning. They led 3-0. Padres got within an eyelash of tying the game. They got a run on a balk in the 7th to get back within 1 run. And after the bases were loaded with nobody out, Bastardo trying to find the Mets' way through a big-time mess. Sixth pitch of the at-bat coming to Ramirez. He struck him out! Big-time pitching by Antonio Bastardo.
His bullpen mates handed him a bases loaded, nobody out mess, and he got through it. Bastardo Houdini.
Mets take a 1-run lead to the 9th. Get to Citi Field for Family Sunday, May 22nd. The Mets square off against the Brewers at 1:10. The first 15,000 fans will receive a bat and ball set as part of Major League Baseball's Play Ball weekend. After the game, all kids 12 and under can run the bases in the Mr. Met Dash, courtesy of Northwell Health. For tickets, visit Mets.com/Family Sundays. Will Myers is going to move over to play third base for the first time in his Major League career. Derek Norris stays in at first. The new pitcher is Brandon Maurer, who makes his second appearance of the series. Mets looking for some insurance in the top of the 9th as Drupal Cabrera, who has driven in 2 runs tonight, takes ball 1. Well, Antonio Bastardo with his signature moment so far as a Met. Some tremendous pitching. Cabrera pops one up. Ramirez playing alone on the left side is under it and puts it away for the out. Play of the game brought to you by Modell's, your fan to your headquarters. 3 plays. 1, 2, 3.
You know, the one thing I noticed while Bastardo was out there, did you notice how cool his demeanor was? There was no sweating out there. There was no grunting and groaning. There was no apprehension on his part. He just did his thing. It's fun to watch.
Here's Conforto. Goes after the changeup from Maurer. 0-1. Conforto 1 for 4 today. Jerry's Familia getting ready for the save opportunity. Last night it was a 1-run game going to the 9th, and the Mets hit a couple of home runs. Wright and Conforto back-to-back to give Familia some breathing room. Will Myers playing third base, but he's playing on the right side of the infield, so it's not really like he's playing third base. But it is the first time in his career he's played third. He did play 15 games in the minor leagues at third, all of that back in 2012. So it's not completely new to him.
I was a little late here. Who's playing first? Norris?
Norris is playing
Okay,
first.
I got it.
Catch up.
Okay. Sorry about that. That was
Conforto smacks one foul down the line. Coming up after we're done here on Pix 11, it's the Pix 11 News Update with Corey Chambers, and over on SNY, it's W.B. Mason postgame live. A long game today. A lot of twists and turns to this one. Matt Harvey will be a headline if the Mets can hang on and win. Conforto chases the changeup, and Mauer has a strikeout. 2 out.
Well, he'll be a headline. Cespedes continuing to hit the ball out of the ballpark with a laser-like swing. Cabrera with a nice game in that 2-hole.
And Antonio Bastardo probably more important than anybody with what he just did in the last half inning. Here's Cespedes, a home run back in the 3rd. In the bottom of the 9th, Familia will have the lower 3rd of the order to face Bethancourt, Rosales, and the pitcher spot, after Bastardo did the heavy lifting in the 8th. Brandon Mauer's stuff is tremendous.
We talked about that. He never really could find his way as a starter, but as a reliever, his 3 pitches really work. They really play.
Quickly ahead on Cespedes, 0-2. He bounces one. Our next picks telecast will be next Saturday when the Mets are in Colorado to play the Rockies. Coverage begins at 8 o'clock Saturday night on Pix 11. Cespedes pokes one down the right field side, and that will land out of play.
Pitchers still keep trying to throw that breaking ball to Cespedes. Mauer's got a good one.
Andrew Kashner is on the hook. He went 5 innings plus, allowed 3 runs, 9 hits before leaving with a hamstring cramp that followed his mad dash around the bases. Called out at the plate, trying to score the tying run. Upheld on review, despite the fact that replay didn't appear to support it. Then Brad Hand, Kevin Quackenbush, and Ryan Buchter worked out of the bullpen in front of Mauer. That's another headline out of this game.
5 pitchers needed for the Padres.
Going back to that play at the plate.
It's huge.
It certainly appeared as though it would be overturned, and it was not. 1-2 coming, and it bounces in. A spiked fastball. 2-2.
Definitively out, Gary.
That's what the replay folks said. By the way, we mentioned the Cubs sweeping 4 from the Nats. Cubs are 24-6, first 24-6 team since the '84 Tigers, who started 35-5. 2-2 coming, and that goes to the backstop. Get a circumstance like that where a pitch is that wild with 2 strikes. Ever get tempted to swing and get to first base that way?
No, because you can't react that way. As soon as it comes out of the pitcher's hand, you recognize that it's such a bad pitch that you let it go.
8th pitch coming to Cespedes, and he takes his walk. So the Mets have a 2-out base runner with Lucas Duda coming up. And now we're unhappy with himself after getting ahead on Cespedes.
Well, he should be, because I don't think he wanted any part of Cespedes, but the problem he has now is that Andy Green didn't have a left-hander up, and Lucas Duda to face Mauer.
He's used both his lefties in his bullpen. So it's Mauer against Duda.
That's right.
Duda's 1 for 3. He's also been hit by a pitch, and he takes low for ball 1. Lucas had an excuse me base hit to left field his last time up. Just his 2nd hit in 15 at bats in this series. A strip of shadow between the mound and home plate, making things tougher for the hitters. And that one almost hit him again. Bethancourt able to stop it. 2-0.
Let's see if Lucas gets a 2-0 fastball to wail on.
I just saw the quote of the day. I'll relay it to you if we have a chance. So we mentioned earlier Bryce Harper walked 6 times and was hit by a pitch. One of the writers after the game asked Anthony Rizzo, the Cubs first baseman, what do you guys talk about? And Rizzo said, honestly, we ran out of stuff to talk about. Spent way too much time together. And Lucas takes a walk, and the Mets have 2 men on. So back-to-back 2-out walks issued by Mauer, and that gets Flores to the plate with a couple of men aboard. Wilmer's 0 for 4 today. Got the start at second base with Neil Walker a little banged up. Walker did pinch hit, struck out in the 8th inning. But Wilmer gets another crack here with 2 men on. Mets have 12 hits on the afternoon. They could sure use another one. Mets have scored 3 2-out runs today. Cabrera has a couple of 2-out RBI hits. Eric Campbell has the other. Cespedes at second, Duda at first with 2 down. Mets have left 9 runners on base. And Flores takes a strike. Mets are 3 for 10 with runners in scoring position this afternoon.
It's been the last hurdle really for this offense, right?
Well, they've done better today. Popped up. Norris in foul ground. Backpedaling and can't get it. Well, that's some inexperience there. Norris, a catcher playing first base, and did not ever look comfortable.
Didn't have his sunglasses on, so might have lost it in the sun. He was doing the Texas 2-step there, and
maybe he should get himself some sunglasses. This is the 16th time in his career that Norris has played first base. Actually, the 19th time. I'm correct that.
Okay.
Most of those came last year with the Padres. So he has been there before. 0-2 to Flores. And Wilmer takes just outside. Mauer was heading toward the dugout. He thought he would get that call, but that's been the one that De Jesus has not called today.
Well, he calls it when the left-handers are up inside, but he does not call it on the right-handers. And I think this is a good call by him. I think it's outside. Bethancourt moved it back over the plate.
1-2 coming. And that one bounces into Bethancourt. 2-2. Kevin Plawecki would be next. Two out, 2 on, 2-2 to Flores. And Wilmer fouls off the fastball at 96 for Mauer. Mets came into the day with an average with 2 outs and runners in scoring position of 163. 3 2-out RBI hits have bettered that today, and Flores trying to add to it.
Look at Melvin Upton in left field. That's a little shallow for Wilmer Flores, isn't it?
Very shallow. Flores hits it in the air to right center. Plenty of room out there for Jay, and that retires the side. Mets strand 2 more. That's 11 for the day. Jerry's Familia will try and get the save. They'll take a 1-run lead into the bottom of the 9th, 4-3 New York. Brought to you by Land Rover, above and beyond. Mets have had the lead in this game since the second inning, but it has not been easy. They have walked the tightrope. Antonio Bastardo doing spectacular work coming into a bases loaded jam in the 8th and getting the Mets through it, protecting Matt Harvey's lead after Matt pitched his best game of the year so far.
Yeah, he did. Blevins came in, gave up a hit to Jay Reed, an infield hit and a hit to load the bases, and Bastardo, his best moment as a Met. Jay Reed's familiar, looking forward to go double-digit in saves. His batting average is against very high against a guy like Familia, but he has pitched much better of late.
As usual, the Mets will alter their defense, put Cespedes in left and Juan Lagares in center, as Familia bids for his 10th save of the season. John Gomez picked up his 11th save. So did Kenley Jansen today to lead the National League. Christian Bethancourt, 2 extra base hits today. The second one a little funky. And he goes after the first pitch, sinker, 0-1. Bethancourt hit a bomb of a 2-run homer off Harvey in the 5th to the back of the second deck in left field. Then he had a ground ball spinning that went off the body of Flores that went for a double. Quick pitch hit back past the mound, and there's Flores to play it. The quick throw, low, but handled by Duda, and they get Bethancourt for the first out.
What a nice play by Lucas Duda. That was an in-between hop, and he saved Flores' bacon there. He had to rush the throw because Bethancourt was really hustling down that first base line. Maybe not an in-between hop. Kind of a short hop for Lucas, but still a nice play.
Not so easy.
Yep.
So 1 out and nobody on. Now Adam Rosales, who's 0 for 3 today. Rosales has struck out twice and flied out. With the shadows working in his favor, Familia gets a strike on Rosales. Jose Pirela, the former Yankee, is out on deck. He was just recalled today with Jamal Weeks going on the disabled list. You can see the shadows. 1-1 to Rosales. There's Pirela, who just rejoined the Padres today, had 5 at-bats earlier in the season at San Diego.
He was sitting well down in El Paso, the Chihuahuas.
Slider fouled off, and now Familia hit on Rosales 1-2. They got the save yesterday with a 1-2-3 ninth. That was with a 3-run lead. Quick pitch, swing and a miss. He struck him out. 2 men down.
He really caught Rosales not ready, because this ball right by him. You know, the shadows make it really difficult for the hitter. Light, and then in total darkness.
So the Padres are down to their final out, and Jose Pirela is the pinch hitter. Pirela 1 for 5 on the season with San Diego. First pitch slider fouled off.
He had 7 home runs in El Paso, so he's got a little bit of pop.
Has 1 major league home run, hit that for the Yankees last year. Came over in a trade for a minor leaguer in the offseason. He's an outfielder who can also play second base, and he might get a chance now with all the injuries the Padres have had. Fly ball down the right field side, that'll go foul. And now the Padres are down to their final strike. This has been a hard-fought game all afternoon. And Familia trying to put on the finishing touches. Oh, and 2 to Pirela. just off the plate. 1-2, same side of the plate. Jesus has not called a strike all day.
I might have allowed the last of the day in the big leagues if that wasn't a strike in the day. Beautiful pitch by Familia.
One-two coming. And misses. 2-2. If Pirela can keep it going, John Jay, who has tormented the Mets for 4 days, is on deck. And Familia knows it, and he's taking a little stroll behind the mound to collect his thoughts. Two from Familia to Pirela. Bouncing ball, diving play, Campbell to his feet. Got him, and the ball game is over. Tremendous play by Eric Campbell to end it. He throws out Pirela to end the game. The umpires say, hang on, let's see if we want to challenge this. Well, let's take a little more excitement out of the game.
Jeez.
Tremendous play by Campbell. And the Padres will not challenge, and the ball game is indeed over.
Remember, he was playing on the line for stopping doubles, so he went a long way to make that play, and it's not even close at first base. Nice job by Campbell.
One of the most exciting victories the Mets have had this year. Matt Harvey pitching the best game he's pitched this year. Great relief pitching by Antonio Bastardo. Another home run from Yoenis Cespedes. Mets get some 2-out hits. And the great play by Campbell to end it.
And the play at the plate was the big difference in this game of just one run. A play that looked like Cashner could have been safe at home. He was called out. The play was upheld, and that was the difference in the game tonight.
So the Mets get a split of the 4-game series as they hang on to win this one 4-3, and they move into first place in the National League East, a half game in front of the Nationals, who got swept by the Chicago Cubs. Harvey gets his 3rd win and by far his best outing of the year, and Campbell makes this outstanding play to end the afternoon. Jeurys Familia now 10 for 10 in save opportunities, and nobody was happier than he that Campbell was able to make that play. Mets win 4.